regular.
What?
Stuff. Get your popcorn ready.
Welcome back to Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. I am Jamie G. Esquire the Fifth, and I don't keep track of my court record because I measure myself against other attorneys by height. So I've got that going for me, which is nice. I'm here with the Soup Deuce and Magna Mills. We're going to talk about Caddyshack, a classic sports comedy. How you doing tonight, Soup? You ready to dive into the pool at the Bushwood Country Club?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'll dive right into the pond, dude. Hopefully there's no gators in there, but I will try and get my ball back when I am in there. Maybe a little scuba gear. I don't even need the scuba gear. I can just feel around and figure it out. Anyway, welcome to our Caddyshack show, man. So looking forward to this one. Enjoy.
Yeah, that's a Soup. He really is a pond guy, right? He seems like ultimately like pool's nice, but yeah, you're a pond. I can see you in a pond, like nice little brook or something like that. I'm Magna Mills. I'm all right. You don't got to worry about me. We're living carefree, squarely in the K-Log zone here on Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. Thank you very much for checking us out. You can find us wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. We're on social media at Dudes Watch Stuff. Same place on the web, dudeswatchstuff.com. Don't forget to correctly card your score at the golf course, and don't forget the flaps. Those are the kind of birdies we like around here. Follow, like, and please subscribe. If you had fun, please hit the thumb.
And before we get into our featured review, we do need to talk about what we've been filling our holes with on the latest edition of Holes in This House. Soup, what have you been filling your holes with since the last time we did a Regular Dudes Watch Stuff?
Well, I'm continuing my journey through the beginning stages of Brockmire. Haven't made it super far yet, but do like everything that I've seen. It's one that I'm trying to squeeze in and get through. Definitely a good one. Wish I would have started it back in the day, but it's never too late. Other than that, man, I've been filling holes with a lot of food stuff. I'm currently reading a book by Anthony Bourdain called Medium Raw. I've read Kitchen Confidential like several times, but Medium Raw is another one that he wrote that I haven't read before. So enjoying that so far. And as always, just making and figuring out food. And I also have been diving into the French Laundry, which is written by Thomas Keller, and legendary chef and legendary cookbook as well. A lot of good stuff in there. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Soup, that sounds good, man. Now you made me hungry. For me, I've been rewatching Archer, and I'm currently in season 5. I'm going all the way from season 1 to the final season. I had not watched seasons 11, 12, or 13, so really excited to get there. I'm in season 5. It's been great. Really enjoyed it. Another thing is I recently started Dexter. And I know I'm like one of those weirdos that like never watched Dexter, but I never got around to watching it. I've been watching it. I really like it, man. It's been a lot of fun. Got through season 1. There's some like plot hole type stuff where you're just like, I don't know if that's really gonna work or not, but it almost doesn't even matter. It's great. Characters are great. I like it a lot. I'm in season 2, halfway through, and really digging it. And then last but not least, I attempted to watch Lilyhammer, and nothing against the great Silvio Dante. It's just not for me. I'm going to try to give it another look. I got through a couple episodes. I'm just like, it has its moments. Don't get me wrong, but I'm gonna let it breathe for a little bit before I come back to it. But yeah, the big one here is Dexter. Really been enjoying that.
Boy, I don't want to say too much other than if there are, I believe, 8 seasons of Dexter, but after you get through 4, come back and we'll talk. Let's just say that. And obviously, if you're
4 seasons.
Yeah, there's 8 total. After you through season 4, you'll want to talk, so then we'll talk. That's all I'm saying. Like it's a tease for the future here, depending on how fast you're going with them. And Archer, obviously, if you're into season 5, that should be a lot of fun. You'll if you enjoy the characters like that, it's Archer all the way through and through, and it changes enough to kind of keep it fresh a little bit. Soup, Brockmire, also very good. Another show that will definitely undergo some changes as it goes along, but in fun and interesting ways. And Brockmire is nothing if not fun and interesting. Talk about a guy you'd like to have a beer with. Yeah. As far as myself, I am current on Futurama. They're releasing a new season through Hulu, kind of the second part of what they released last summer. Very good, kind of similar thing to Archer. If you like Futurama, This is more Futurama. You will probably enjoy it. I binged through season 5 of Solar Opposites on Hulu. This is that other kind of joint that Justin Roiland started originally. It's fine. It's like a fun little binge, throw it in on the background kind of thing. It's okay. I didn't have any problem with it, but it's just I don't know, nothing that really jumps out at me. It's fine. If you're a fan of it, I'm sure you liked it. It's okay, but I shouldn't say really enjoy, but I definitely enjoyed certain episodes of the first couple seasons, and the last couple I'm just kind of like, oh, it's new, I'll check it out, and I put it on, and it is what it is. Then you have season 4 of the Umbrella Academy. This has kind of been a divisive season. That's the final season of that show on Netflix. Really enjoyed the first 3. I didn't hate the final season, but definitely disappointing. There's no real way around it. One of those things where instead of the usual 10 episodes, they got 6, and this was a show that probably always should have had 8-episode season. So there were always problems with the pacing. Just it didn't quite stick the landing. There were a couple of things that the fans didn't really like in the 4th season, and I think I'm probably on the fan side on most of these. So not super awesome. But what was super awesome, I finally got around to checking it out. This is like when I get yelled at, and I finally watched Oppenheimer. And just like, dude, I needed to set aside 3 hours to do it. It's one of those things. It's that when you push that past 2.5 hours, it's just like, man, flew by. Just I know I'm late to the party or whatever, but obviously at this point, Christopher Nolan, whatever. You could literally tell me he's directing some weird. I don't even care if Christopher Nolan's doing it. It's probably worth it. The man's batting average is absolutely insane. So that was a good time. And just randomly, I rewatched Primer. This is a old kind of a independent time travel movie from the early 2000s by Shane Carruth. Super technically heavy. They don't really dumb it down. It's it's a time travel movie. I don't want to say a lot about it. The production quality is amazing for what it is. It's not an easy one to find, but it definitely a good one to check out. Primer, that was a good one. And I did watch the because we talked about it on the hype train before, the Atlas joint. This is like J-Lo, artificial intelligence, big robots. It was fine. Again, yeah, it was on. I watched it. It wasn't terrible. She did her best. It just was a pretty generic sci-fi flick. So, if you want to put it on, if you have Netflix, go for it. But if not, I'm certainly not subscribing to Netflix to watch it.
Would you watch it if you could still share Netflix passwords?
Probably. It's just one of those things I almost like when services had the thing with like what's leaving, because it forces me to watch stuff. Netflix, like that's a Netflix original, so it would always be there. So you know what I mean? So it's like, why would you kind of get around to it if you don't get it right when it comes out? I just remember talking about it. There were a couple people in it that I liked. And I'm like, oh, sometimes these sci-fi movies, it's hit or miss. They put some money behind it. And Jennifer Lopez wasn't bad. Like she wasn't what was wrong with the flick by anything. It just was, it tried to just jam a bunch of parts from different sci-fi flicks together, and it looked good. They threw some money in the effects and everything, and it wasn't cheap or anything. Just it was very generic. I'd rather go rewatch like Johnny Mnemonic or something. I don't know.
I mean, not.
Brain like Johnny Demonic. Well, you should avoid making the same mistake Jack Parkman made by getting off the tracks, because the train is coming through. It's time for the hype train. Mills, what are you hyped to check out?
This is a little bit of a teaser for me because I've only got through the first 2 episodes of season 1, but the season 3 premiere of Industry just dropped on HBO Max, whatever you want to call it. I think on HBO and Max. They've made it needlessly complicated. Heard nothing but good things, so I'm trying to get into the show, do the thing where I catch up so I can get with it, catch up by mid-season 3. So I'm kind of excited about that. The Only Murders in the Building joint is dropping season 4 on Hulu fairly soon. I've kind of just rewatched that a little bit over the last couple of weeks. It's fine. It's a fun little breezy show because it is a whodunit. It doesn't necessarily give as much rewatch value as I might like. But obviously, Martin Short, Steve Martin, Selena Gomez, they're just fun. They have good chemistry. It's nice. It's light. Nothing too much on that. So definitely hyped about that stuff. And then one kind of random joint coming out August 30th, the Slingshot. This has got our guy, Frenchie, in it. Tomer Capone, Casey Affleck, Lawrence Fishburne, David Morrissey. It's kind of like a sci-fi joint where they're in space. The astronaut doesn't kind of know what's real, around one of the Saturn's moons kind of deals. So kind of one of those out there sci-fi flicks, but I thought the trailer was pretty cool. Got our guy in it. Lawrence Fishburne's always solid. Casey Affleck's done good stuff. So got David Morrissey. You might remember the governor from Walking Dead. So good cast. Kind of excited for that. Jamie G, what are you hyped for, brother?
I did see that like the first 6 episodes of season 2 Arcane got leaked. So I am gonna go check that out. As you guys may recall, boy Jamie G. Esquire the fifth is a big Arcane fan. Really excited about it. I thought season 1 was
And also
awesome.
a Netflix subscriber, so he's paying for it. He's already paying for it.
I paid my dues, dude.
Soup, what are you hyped for?
There's a couple things that are also out that I haven't seen yet that are now available for like streaming and whatnot, like Furious. I haven't seen. I'm hyped to check that out. There's the Long Legs that I want to check out, which I've already talked about. So there's a couple things on my docket that I'm looking forward to. As far as a little bit further down the road, there's a movie that I just discovered was being made or is getting released somewhere around Halloween time. It's a British film and it is called Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. You know, I am with these cheesy horror movies. Same dude who's doing this did the Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey movie. So it's like a take on, you know, a Disney joint, but a really, you know, crazy horror shit instead. So looking forward to checking that out. There's not an available trailer for it yet, but there are first looks and whatnot if you want to, you know, peek into it. But definitely hyped about that one for sure. There's also another movie that I'm kind of hyped about that's been out for a while, and I just recently got turned on to it by a buddy of mine who's like, "Dude, you haven't heard of this? You should check it." So I don't know if this counts or not because it's been out for a minute, but it is a movie called The Platform, and the trailer for this just looked incredibly crazy. Somewhere around a mix between like Saw and I don't know, somewhere it looks like it's somewhere on that level, you know. Definitely twisted as far as I can tell. So I'm looking forward to checking that one out here pretty soon, or whenever I get a chance, hopefully soon.
Nice. We actually talked about that. You put me on. That's from 2019. I think it's an independent foreign film, so it might be a little bit tougher
There's a part
to
two.
check out and find. But
Making a
I've
part two
heard very
now.
good things, reviewed very well. So I'm definitely interested to check that one out. Good call.
Here's a fun fact. We are, in fact, legally required to reference Archer in every single episode of Regular Dudes Watch Stuff, which we do with our sterling suggestions. And this is really just a fancy way of saying we're each going to recommend something that you should check out. Soup, send us on our way.
All right, so you know, in the genre of movies like you know, like Half Baked or Friday or How High, movies like this, there's one that kind of flies under the radar, and it's called Puff Puff Pass. This movie is freaking hilarious, man. It's arguably better than some of these other like, you know, more high profile like, you know, stoner comedy movies and shit, man. I don't know why it flew under the radar the way it did, but definitely worth giving a look, man. I mean, it's got the '70s kid in it. It's Mekhi Phifer, I believe, directed or wrote it or something like that, and or both, and he's also in it. I mean, the cast that's in it is hilarious. Everybody plays a great role, and just every scene in it is mind blowingly funny. Definitely something you should give a look to if you do like that kind of comedy. And if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. If you have, give it a rewatch because the rewatch holds up pretty well too.
Did I hear you say every scene is mind-blowingly funny?
I maybe, but
Every scene.
Well, that might be a little bit overhyped, but he is right. He
yeah,
did
maybe
know the
overhyped, but
details.
it's pretty good. It's good. It's fucking hilarious, you know. So check it.
Directed by Mekhi Phifer, and I do remember the poster for this one. I just don't know if I ever got around to seeing it. But in the supporting cast, you have Terry Crews, John C. McKinley, Jonathan Banks, and David Faustino.
Dude, Terry Crews is hilarious in this one, as he is in most things. But yeah, we're definitely a good watch, man.
Me and Jonathan Banks probably too. I'm definitely a little bit more in on that. So good call, dude. That's and I'm not sure. Hopefully, it's streaming somewhere. Although everything's going in and off the streaming these days, so hopefully, it's out there somewhere.
It was on something not too long ago. I don't remember which platform, but it's not that hard.
Yeah, check out Just Watch. Hopefully, it's available for your subscription or whatnot. If not, you know, there are high seas that you could ride out there. Jamie G, what is your sterling suggestion?
Yeah, you guys know that I love animated series. I think they're funny. There's something about cartoon characters using foul language, doing crazy things that just makes me feel good. Stumbled on one. I think it's on HBO Max, but really enjoyed this one. It's called Royal Crackers. It's just one season so far, but it's absolutely hilarious. It's basically about the two sons that are inheriting this family fortune, this cracker company called Royal Crackers. And one is like total nerd trying to do the other thing, trying to do the right thing. And the other one is like former rock star that's a nobody now and like trying to relive his past. Very funny. Enjoy it a lot. I'm looking forward to them making another season. I hope it gets picked up for another season. But yeah, good stuff, man. Royal Crackers. Check it out.
Also heard decent things about that, so I think that's a good call. Y'all went maybe a little bit lighter with it, so I will bring The Dark with Hannibal.
Ooh,
This is a 3-season show originally on NBC. It's on Prime Video now, ran from 2013 to 2015. Brian Fuller, you've known for a lot of different things, Pushing Daisies, The American Gods, at least the first season. Obviously, a pretty prolific showrunner producer. It starred Hugh Dancy, Mads Mikkelsen, Lawrence Fishburne again here, Gillian Anderson. And it's basically some of the Hannibal Lecter stuff you've seen. It does follow the books more. I will minor spoiler, they do not get to Silence of the Lambs. They didn't technically own the rights to that. It's kind of a character thing or whatever. But you had Mads Mikkelsen playing Hannibal Lecter like before anybody knew what was up with Hannibal Lecter, basically. And they do redo basically most of the plot points from Red Dragon / Manhunter, because this is been done before. But dude, this is wild. I can't believe it was on network television to begin with. It's one of the most gorgeous shows I've ever seen on network television by far. Crazy sound design, just very, very good. It really kind of just, if you like it, you will really like it. They do obviously a ton with food and eating. It's a big thing. It definitely kind of garnered a big cult following here. It's now considered, up there with some of the greatest network TV series of all time, especially kind of on, that didn't run forever, just the 3 seasons here. And again, they wanted to go for a fourth, but they kind of knew they weren't getting one. So while it's not maybe the perfect ending or the one I might have ultimately wanted, they did know enough though it does end on a satisfying enough note. I would say that go ahead and check it out. I think it would be super awesome. So it's not for everybody, don't get me wrong. It's not a pure horror show. Obviously it was on network television, but there will be blood, there will be darkness, there will be weirdness, and if you're into that, you'll really like it.
I've heard. I'm glad you reminded me on that, dude, because I've heard that I should watch this show, and I think
Yeah,
you
right up your alley, dude. This is
just for even the food
way
aspect of it, I should be checking it out. So other people,
way up your alley. I can't even explain. Like, it's a wild show. And at the time, I put it, I think, on Friday night for the second and third season. I did watch it live as it went down, and it didn't get enough people, obviously, but man, like, we're still hoping for the fourth season, literally, and all the actors have sounded game to do it. So I'm literally still hoping. It's one of those things. A fourth season, maybe it could still happen. Who knows?
sweet.
Awesome, man. Appreciate that. Guys, before we tee off, we do need to connect us dudes to the dude. With 6 Degrees of Lebowski, Mills, please get us to the Big Lebowski via Caddyshack as directly as humanly possible.
This is pretty possible. There might even be fluid exchange here. In Caddyshack, Cindy Morgan played Lacey Underall. In Tron, Cindy Morgan played Laura, while Jeff Bridges played Kevin Flynn, and Jeff Bridges is the dude.
Ah, well, dude, all right. That was probably too easy. And I doubt making you use Bill Murray would be any harder. Boom. Phrasing. We did it again. Mills, get us to the Big Lebowski and use Bill's brother, Brian Doyle Murray.
Well, I could definitely do that, but I'll even one up you here and avoid movies where Brian Doyle Murray appeared with Bill Murray, because that feels like that would be cheating. So here we go. In Caddyshack, Brian Doyle Murray plays Lou Loomis. In Cabin Boy, Brian Doyle Murphy played Skunk, while Andy Richter played Kenny. In season 1, episode 1 of Mr. Show with Bob and David, The Cry of a Hungry Baby, Andrew Richter guest starred as Andy Richter, and Todd Glass guest starred as Cop. In Marmaduke from 2010, Todd Glass voiced Doberman and Shasta, while Sam Elliott voiced Chupadogra. And in The Big Lebowski, Sam Elliott is the stranger.
Wow.
Okay.
I thought you were going to use Brian Doyle Murray's appearance on Sunny, but I'll let you slide on that one. But what I absolutely cannot let you slide on is using Rodney Dangerfield. Give us a fun way from the man who gets no respect to the Big Lebowski.
All right, all right. In Caddyshack, Rodney Dangerfield plays Al Cervic. In Lil Nicky, Rodney Dangerfield plays Lucifer, while Reese Ifans plays Adrian. In House of the Dragon, Season 1, Episode 1, The Heirs of the Dragon, Reese Ifans plays Otto Hightower, and Matt Smith plays Daemon Targaryen. In Terminator Genesis, Matt Smith played Alex, while Emilia Clarke played Sarah Connor. Yes, that actually happened. In Game of Thrones Season 1, Episode 1, Winter is Coming, Emilia Clarke played Daenerys Targaryen, and Peter Dinklage played Tyrion Lannister. In St. John of Las Vegas, Peter Dinklage played Mr. Townsend, and Steve Buscemi played John. and Steve Buscemi is Donnie.
Wow.
That was a change, dude.
Well, I'm not wild about you resorting to Donnie, but this wasn't bad. Do you have one more fun one with Dangerfield?
I'm glad you asked because I probably have three, but we're just going to do one. In Caddyshack, Rodney Dangerfield plays Al Cervic. In My Five Wives from the year 2000, Rodney Dangerfield plays Monte Peterson, and Andrew Dice Clay plays Tony Morano. In Foolish, Andrew Dice Clay played El Dorado Ron, while Jonathan Banks played Numbers. In Gremlins, Jonathan Banks played Deputy Brent, and Judge Reinhold played Gerald Hopkins. In The Santa Claus 2, Judge Reinhold played Neil Miller, and Kevin Pollak played Cupid. In Red State, Kevin Pollak played Asac Brooks, and John Goodman played Joseph Keenan, and John Goodman is Walter. So I got a Red State, I got a Jonathan Banks, I got a Dice. I think that was pretty fun.
I think you've achieved the mission here, Mills. It is time to head to Bushwood Country Club and talk about Caddyshack. Mills, go ahead and play the Kenny Loggins 8-track and give us all the details.
This is Caddyshack, directed by Harold Ramis, written by Brian Doyle Murray, Harold Ramis, and Douglas Kenny. Produced by Douglas Kenny. Cinematographer was Steve Larner. Edited by William C. Carruth. Music by Johnny Mandel. And a little bit from K-Log. Originally released July 25th, 1980. Had a budget of $6 million, upon which it returned $60 million. Nice ROI there. Starring Chevy Chase, Rodney Dangerfield, Ted Knight, Michael O'Keefe, and Bill Murray. The short plot synopsis is a young working class teenager tries to figure out what he wants to do with his life while spending the summer caddying at ritzy Bushwood Country Club. Through all the golf tournaments, the partying, and the general shenanigans, he doesn't just learn how to play the game, he discovers what he truly desires. All thanks to a gopher with some sick dance moves.
Before going forward here, this is going to be a full spoiler discussion of Caddyshack. And you might as well throw in Caddyshack too, just in case, man. We might throw a little sprinkle of something that happened in that one also, man. But that's it. Pretty simple, man. We're letting it all hang out. And now you know.
Well, Mills, you've wanted to talk about Caddyshack for a while now. This is your guy here. Go ahead and tell us the why behind your love for Caddyshack.
I think a lot of it is because I played golf from a young age, and I was, I don't know, 10, 12-ish when I started playing golf. And it was always referenced, and when I first time I saw it, I was young like that, but I didn't kind of get all the jokes yet or whatever, and I didn't really quite understand it. And as I've come back to it at different periods of my life, it's always played different, but it basically gets better. I get more of the jokes, and the characters you kind of empathize with change a little bit over the years, although I've still never felt anything but contempt for Judge Vales. And that's why I think Ted Knight might kind of be like the secret stealth real MVP of this, because he's so just hateful that it allows everyone else to be kind of assholes and get away with it, because boy, at least they're not Smales. It's another flick with a fascinating story behind it. I've read books about it. I've watched documentaries. I wish there was like a Hearts of Darkness kind of like documentary just about the making of this movie. It sounds absolutely wild, and that would have been, almost a movie in itself. It is a guy who does play some golf. It's just amazing how much longevity this movie has. When you go to a country club, to a pro shop, there's Bushwood t-shirts, there's Bushwood memorabilia everywhere. People talk about it still. It's just crazy. I mean, it's a whole thing. It's a cultural phenomenon, and it's just something that I've actually grown to love more over the years. So it's just a really good one for me, man. I absolutely kind of, yeah, I love it. I think that's fair. Like I might be in love with it. I don't know. Either way, it's, whatever. It's not that simple. It's more complex than that, let's say. Jamie G, where are you at as far as Caddyshack and golf? How many times have you seen Caddyshack? When you seen it recently, and what do you kind of know about golf?
Well, I'll start with just the familiarity here. I only watched it, a couple times as a kid. Really didn't remember much. Only really remembered the gopher scenes, and just how weird Bill Murray was, because kind of, this isn't the Bill Murray that we've all, like the household Bill Murray, this like early Bill Murray. So definitely, wasn't super familiar with it. I can't even remember the last time I watched it. Again, remember bits and pieces, but mostly the gopher stuff. Familiarity with golf, pretty familiar. I mean, fairly familiar, one would say. I golf. I enjoy the game, the sport. When I don't enjoy it, it's usually because I'm mad because I'm playing so poorly, or the clubs or the balls are doing things that I don't want them to. It is a fun, fun, fun game. It's awesome to get out there and just get some fresh air, get some sun, and have a cigar, drink a couple beers, and swing some clubs, man. That's what it's all about. So it's a ton of fun. I love getting out there and golfing. And yeah, enjoyed it, man. Enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, and so yeah, you're familiar enough with everything that everything in the movie makes sense. You didn't have to wonder like, oh, I don't know how this works, or like you probably even country club memberships, you know how all that kind of works and everything. So all that probably works easier when you don't need any exposition for it. How about you, Soup? When's the last time you'd seen Caddyshack? How many times have you seen it, and where are you at kind of vis-a-vis golf?
Well, man, I mean, I've seen Caddyshack kind of a lot of times, probably, man. Throughout the course of the lifetime here, and it's been a while since I have seen it, so the rewatch was definitely very cool. A couple things I kind of forgot about and remembered, and I mean, you know how it is after you haven't seen a movie in a while, and then there was a couple things I had to separate from Caddyshack 2, which I remembered from that one that weren't in this one. I was like, oh yeah, that was in the other one, but that I think that happened only like once, but still, it was there. Either way, Caddyshack is a great movie. I mean, we'll get into it, but the dialogue and everything, I forgot how good just like most of just the conversations are, and just the underlying things that are there with them. But yeah, sick call on that, man. Love that dude. Definitely a big fan here. And as far as golf goes, I like to golf. I haven't done it in kind of a long time, which sucks because I should. It'd be something I do enjoy getting out there, spending a day. You gotta kind of devote a day to it. But it's relaxing, it's fun, and to me, I'm not like good at it, but it's something I enjoy doing because it's fun and because of the change of seeing the environment and everything like that. I've never been a member of a country club or anything, but I do understand the concept there, and I wouldn't be opposed to it. Like I said, I'm not very good at golf, but with doing it more, I probably could get better at it. And it reminds me of like bowling or pool. I like to play those two, but I'm not like gonna compete, But
Yeah, there's a whole difference
good on
between
the both.
competing casually and like the serious people. Even within a country club, there'll be different leagues, and there will be the very, very serious leagues. Then some kind of like semi-competitive leagues, and then leagues where it's like literally like we're just gonna have fun. Like, yeah, there will be someone who wins, but everyone's the real winner.
Yeah, that's what I like, man. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a cool thing about golf that you can play it at almost any age, and they try to offer ways to equalize it with handicaps, tee boxes being closer, that kind of thing. So
I like the club. I like the idea of all the clubs. It's like, when I unroll my knife bag, and it's just like, all these knives, and like people are like, "What do you need all this for?" Well, this one's for this. This one's for this. Do I use them all every day? No, but
oh, see, when you get more hardcore, then you'll have different drivers. You can make different drivers based on the shaft and you can change a lot of different things out there. There's fun stuff you can do. So especially if you have money, golf can get very expensive and very customizable.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
A lot of options, dude. Too many options, to be honest.
A lot of options with the shaft and the balls. There are a lot of sports movies out there, guys, and then you have subgenres within that. Caddyshack is clearly a comedy, but I got to know, where does it rank for you amongst sports comedies? Is this in the top tier range? Is it better than, say, Happy Gilmore? Soup, what do you think?
Better, I don't know. Different, yeah. I think Caddyshack was more of like a pioneer of this kind of thing, just because of how I mean, it was 1980, dude. That's kind of a long time ago when it came out. I don't know what came out before this. It might have even been a sports comedy. I don't know. I can't even think of one off the top of my head that was earlier than that. So I do
Bad
think
News Bears, maybe that would have been pretty close, and maybe that was 78 or 9.
but and especially on this level where it's borderline. I mean, this didn't get the R rating, but it probably could have, or you could see it. Whatever. Either way, it was more the adult comedy, as opposed to something like Bad News Bears or whatever. But yeah, I think it really helped a lot of other sports comedies down the road are always going to reference Caddyshack, and like I said, I think it helped launch a lot of that, in that genre.
So kind of in that top tier then of sports comedy.
I would definitely put it even in as far as holding up to like now. Yes, absolutely in the top tier, man.
How about you, JVG? Caddyshack, top tier sports comedy, and Happy Gilmore again. They are definitely different flicks, but just any comparison between the two.
Yeah, look, I think it's up there. First of all, I don't know that there's a huge catalog of sports comedy movies. So we should just point that out. But I do think it's up there. However, one of my main critiques, and I think that it's relevant here, is this could have been so much better if it wasn't made 44 years ago, because it completely looks and sounds like it was made 44 years ago. I mean, a lot of the funny moments are quiet and kind of odd or off. There's a weird thing going on with background noise the whole time where they were never able to, separate that. And I think a lot of it's just because technology and how to film stuff back then. It's funny, it works, but I think if this movie was made in like 1995 instead of 1979, it would have been way funnier and a lot better. And because of all those reasons, while if you gave it the same technology, the same visual, the same audio as you gave Happy Gilmore, I think this would win. But because you didn't, and it's harder to hear, you got to kind of think about, like, it's just not as fluid, doesn't work as well. I think Happy Gilmore is funnier just because of those things. It's easier to pick up on when the moments land. With this one, you could watch it, and if you got background noise going on or it's quiet, you might miss one of the funniest things that's said, right? Because it's harder. They didn't like accentuate anything to like make it stand out.
I mean, I can see where you kind of think that, but I kind of appreciate and like the old school, I mean, vinyl that you get out of this. So, with lack of
Yeah.
a better term, like, I mean, it's raw, it's legit.
Well, it was shot on location. They did do some ADR.
But a lot of it's like, you're there's dialogue going on, but yet they're incorporating all the stuff that's happening in the background, and it's just as loud as the dialogue. And that's, to me, having taken film classes and having done stuff before, that shouldn't be the case. Like, that should be muffled, and it should be more of a visual than the sound. And that happens quite a bit in this movie. And I think it's just they just didn't have, it's 1979, dude. It's not the same. It doesn't look the same. It doesn't sound the same as something filmed in, like Happy Gilmore in the 2000s or even something in the 90s. So, for those reasons, I think I would probably put Happy Gilmore above it. But I do think the comedy in this is funnier, but it's harder to grasp a little bit just because of how it looks and sounds. I mean, it's very noticeable that this movie is 44 years old. Like, very noticeable.
Yeah, I could get past that, and I appreciate that. Like, I like that. I see what you're saying, but I like that. Like, watch movies like The Jerk or something, it's old as fuck, but it's hilarious. I mean,
Even what you're saying is actually nothing really groundbreaking, because this was Harold Ramis's first movie, and he was so raw. If you watch some of the behind the scenes stuff, like, he was struggling with which way to point the camera. And they filmed a lot of stuff. They let it improv, and then they tried to tighten it up with ADR. So you are 100% right. But they have tried to kind of tighten some of that up on a remaster. So sometimes make sure, what version you're watching or whatever, at least get the good 5.1 mix. But yeah, there are certainly problems like that. It definitely was not filmed with the technology. The technology back then it's not like it was terrible or something. It was just older, and they were filming on location, not in a studio, so it was harder to capture sound. And they didn't do the greatest job. So that hurts a little bit. But I think when you first saw it on television, back in the 80s or 90s, you didn't notice that stuff as much, probably. So now,
Not because everything
more
was probably
noticeable.
like that, right?
Right.
But when you're comparing it against stuff that we're seeing, I mean, dude, we just got House of the Dragon. I mean, think about how House of the Dragon looks and sounds compared to this, right? And I know that's an extreme and it's two separate things, but just like that, like the opening scene, for example, it's just like loud and chaotic and nothing works and you can't hear who's talking. It's just a lot of that kind of stuff in this. So I think it's harder to catch some of its brilliance because of that.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It's not The Godfather. It wasn't filmed like, again, dude's first film. They try to surround him with good cinematographers, good editors. You do what you can, but they kind of made this on the fly. And, we'll get into what was actually going on around it. For me, I think this is obviously a top tier sports comedy. In that top tier, I would put Happy Gilmore up in that top tier. I prefer Caddyshack slightly, but I absolutely love Happy Gilmore. And I think it's still probably my favorite Adam Sandler joint. Major League's in there, Slapshot's in there, Kingpin's in there. Bull Durham is probably in there, although it's a little bit more of a romantic comedy, but especially from a baseball standpoint, it's very, very good. Great cast.
If you're gonna throw Bull Durham in there, you may as well throw Tin Cup in there, dude. I mean, Tin
See,
Cup.
Tin Cup I call is more of a romantic comedy. Tin Cup, and it's not as funny, but I do enjoy Tin Cup.
I like Tin
but I would
Cup.
prefer, obviously Caddyshack and Happy Gilmore. So I don't know if I could put 3 golf movies in my top tier sports comedy, but there's other stuff too. I mean, besides Adam Sandler stuff, Dodgeball is always pretty great. Yeah, Goon, I love. Necessary Roughness, Basketball, Other Replacements. That's a good one. So there's, it's not the biggest subgenre, but I feel like there's a decent selection in there. And
Yeah, I
definitely a
mean
solid
Sandler.
top tier.
The remake of The Longest Yard was pretty damn funny too with Sandler. I know the original one was more of a serious, but
Yeah, I didn't mind it because I like all the people in it. I
yeah.
think even like Nelly's good in it. They do a great job of casting that one. I think
And
that carries. Even
Eddie.
Michael Irvin's pretty good. Yeah, that's a solid remake. So at least from our standpoint, it was just when it was released. But overall, I think we're pretty clear on that. Caddyshack is at least a good top tier sports comedy. Doesn't have to be the greatest movie in the world, but as far as sports comedies, pretty damn good.
Agreed.
Well, before we get into specifics, what are your overall thoughts on Caddyshack? What jumped out at you for better or worse, and how did it hold up compared to the last time you remember watching it? Mills, you're up first here. It's your baby.
Yeah, I've said a lot, so I'll just say that this is one of those flicks that every time I watch it, my favorite moment changes. My favorite character changes. That's what I think, is the mark of a flick that's just so rewatchable that I enjoy it every time. And that's really the main thing. And as I mentioned before, just as I've gotten older, you kind of relate to some of the characters a little bit differently. And then if you just think about it, you have Roddy Dangerfield, Chevy Chase, Bill Murray, all basically at just the peak of their powers. Like they're still young and vibrant enough and fresh, and it's hard to beat that trio there. So I just think that's pretty incredible, and I enjoy a different part of it a little bit more every time I see it. How about you, Jamie G? Overall thoughts on the Caddyshack? As far as stuff you haven't mentioned.
I'm not so sure about peak. I think Chevy Chase goes on to peak harder, and Bill Murray certainly does. This was a early Bill Murray, but I definitely
Well, I
think
think
peak
Bill
Rodney
Murray's peak lasts for
Dangerfield.
a long time. Chevy Chase is
Yeah.
not so much, but Bill Murray peaked he might still be peaking, dude.
He might be. Overall thoughts here for me, guys. I again really enjoyed it. I keep going back to I wish it was made in like 92 or 95 or something like that. I just think it would have been so much better. I didn't really like the beginning. I think it starts off pretty bad. It's super chaotic in that house. You don't really know what's going on. It's impossible to follow. It doesn't really work. It's all over the place. It's super loud. You can't hear who's talking. You don't know if you're supposed to be following the kid or not. It's just weird. The opening to me was horrible, but it gets really good as soon as it gets to Bushwood. Like once they get to Bushwood, everything calms down and it's a lot better. I think it was probably 20 to 30 minutes too long, but there are so many scenes here that I really enjoyed. It's just fun. The characters are great. I mean, the way they use them are good. For me, I enjoyed it a lot, but I just wish it was not as old as it is because there's just some of the stuff that it's just hard for me to get past. Some of it's just so chaotic. You can't hear, you don't know who's the lead character because the scene's just so gobbled, but when it hits, like when Rodney Dangerfield comes in his scenes and he steals the show, or you're out there on the course with Danny and Chevy Chase, or when Bill Murray's clearly the lead. When it works, but there's a lot of stuff where it doesn't. And it kind of drags on a little bit and it's just not boring at times, but it's just like because it's so old, it's just like, some of that stuff's hard for me personally. That's a personal preference, just because things look and sound so much better today than they did back then. And you know what you're getting into when you watch it. It came out in 1980s, but to me, it's very clear that it's 1980. Overall, really enjoyed it. I think the highs make up for those lows. Enjoyed watching it a lot. I don't know if I'll rush out to watch it again anytime soon, but really enjoyed it.
One thing I did think about as you were saying, and Jamie, I do kind of agree with you, and now I can kind of relate something. I found something that relates. Like whenever I go back and watch Porky's, you kind of get that same vibe where it's like, oh, it's super,
Yeah.
and it's not, if it were like more, films, 10, 20 years later, there'd be a different thing. But I appreciate the older shit like that. So that whole thing didn't really bother me as much as at all, really, because when you think about like how groundbreaking something like a movie like that is, and just how it's set to kind of like pave the road for a lot of other things coming after it, and not even that, I just like the dialogue in this movie is awesome. There's so many little things. There's in all like almost any piece of dialogue, especially with like Ty Webb. But I mean, all there's just a lot of little things that might maybe go unnoticed. And I see where you could, somebody looking at it like you are gets distracted by the quality of the film and how old it is or whatever. You might not be able to notice some of those things or be distracted too much to pick some of those things up. Like me, I was picking up a lot of those things on the rewatch here, and that was probably one of the better things out of my rewatch experience was picking up some things that I had forgot about out of this movie.
Totally agree, dude. I think it's harder to catch the comedy. They don't slap it across your face. You have to think, you have to
I like
listen, you have
that
to
though.
really
Yeah.
focus in. And absolutely, there's a time and place for that. But it's also one of those things because of the poor quality on some of these scenes. It's so hard. It should be accentuated, not I have to search for it.
See,
And I think that's one of the
I
things
might
that
be more used to it, dude, with some of the stuff I watch because I watch, and I don't even want to say this was poor quality because I wouldn't call it poor quality at all. I've seen some fucking poor quality. I mean, shit. Probably just the other day, I watched a poor quality, cheesy, like D-lister horror flick or something. So I've been even the first like Friday the 13th movies and shit are very very old now at this point. So again, it's like watching stuff like that. Like I like a lot of this older stuff, so it didn't really phase me the whole quality thing. Not everything's CGI and 2020 whatever the fuck. Like
I agree, but on a movie like if you tried to make a Quentin Tarantino movie in 1980, I don't know that it would work because it's harder to capture the dialogue. And when this one, there's such good dialogue, but sometimes you can't even really hear it because there's background noise or you don't know what's going on or like who's supposed to be the lead. Like it's harder to follow and it's harder to focus and it's harder to actually hear and catch some of these lines that are so great. So maybe it's one of those ones the more you watch it, the easier it gets. But that was kind of my interpretation upon watching it for the first time in a long time. It's just kind of like, it could be so much better I think if it had better quality.
yeah. Well, you brought up the opening scene a couple of times. Aside from the opening with Gopher just getting it boogieing, there is that chaotic scene at the house with the family or whatever. I kind of like this one. I mean, yeah, you have no idea what's going on, and I get the chaos, but I think that's done for a reason. And what I really liked about this was the old man. The old man was hilarious, dude, because all this shit's going on around him, and it's just like all of a sudden he's not even paying attention, but he's keeping track of the money.
Ah, I saw that. That's about $10 and change.
I had a couple of burgers and some Cokes for lunch.
How many Cokes?
4 or 5.
What are you, a diabetic?
I don't know.
Wait.
Things like that I picked up on and I paid attention to, and noticed where I can see why some other people watching the movie might not have caught because, I mean,
It just wasn't clean. It was so much noise and like you don't know, it's just not, you gotta dull out background noise and make the thing we're supposed to be watching the loudest. Like I just don't think it did that.
all right, well, enough on that. Again, it's there. I understand what you're saying with it, but at the same point, it didn't bother me as much just because I knew the elements and I knew, and I think I'm a little bit more familiar with watching things like this.
Mills, I know that you've read books and watched documentaries about Caddyshack. Is there any information you'd like to give us that might enlighten our discussion?
As far as other stuff here, this is a deal where the original story was about the caddies. It was about Danny and Tony and their competition and Danny's romance with Maggie and all that. That was basically the original movie. That was supposed to be a kind of a coming of age thing. Danny's trying to figure out what he's doing. And then obviously you get all these other dudes rolling in and they're so awesome that they started improving and it just kept going and going and going. But from the jump, it was way long. The original script was 250 pages, which is very, very long for a comedy. And this was basically, I wouldn't say Brian Doyle Murphy wrote a lot of it, but he was the dude who primarily worked at a golf course. Harold Ramis did too, as well as Bill Murray. So they did actually have a lot of experience here with actually caddying. So they tried to use a lot of aspects of that about it. In the behind the scenes partying was literally legendary. As I've mentioned to Harold Ramis, this was his first directing job. And it was kind of like Kevin Smith on Mallrats. Like they had like people waiting. Like if he failed, he was going to be replaced. And it was really tough for him, but he did definitely get into it at the very end. But I mean, you've heard, especially Michael keep talking about it, like literally just cocaine everywhere. They all stayed at like one motel for 11 weeks, and it was just, I mean, famous. It's like, oh, it's no big deal. It's the 70s. You just do a couple lines and do your scene or whatever, and you'll see that in some of the behind the scenes stuff. And not only was Ramis not really experienced, Rodney Dangerfield was had no experience basically as an actor for the most part, other than being on Johnny Carson. He didn't even know what action was. Like they tried to call him in with action and he didn't get it. And then eventually they're like, all right, Ronnie, do your bit. And then he'd come in and do it and just absolutely kill. And he would get so pissed because people wouldn't laugh. And they're trying to tell him, like, dude, we can't laugh. It'll ruin the scene. But he gets, you know what I mean? It was just that, and very kind of famously, he would hang out a lot with the younger actors. So there was a little bit of a discord, especially with Ted Knight, who played Smales, because he was kind of an older, classically trained actor. He just wanted to show up on time, do the work, and everyone else was staying up late partying and improvising like crazy, which ultimately led to a lot of the great stuff in the film. But that's why it feels discombobulated, because it is. It's like 3 different movies put together. And in fact, they didn't even really have a way to tie it together. So they invented the gopher near the very end just to try to tie it together. And the gopher became the through line, because originally it was about these caddies and their coming of age thing. Eventually they cut so much out of it that even the stuff with like Maggie having the pregnancy scare almost feels out of place, because it was part of, just an artifact from original script. You'll see that at the end a little bit, like when everyone's cheering for Danny and he wins, he's hanging out with all the caddies. It's not like Ty, he's hanging out with Tony and everybody.
Right.
So if you know a little bit, it's different. But the first cut was like 4 hours. It was wild. And eventually they got it down to what it was. But yeah, it was a tough edit. So it's not surprising that it feels a little discombobulated, especially if you haven't seen a lot.
No, dude, appreciate that background a lot. Definitely changes kind of how you think about it. Well, let's talk about all the stuff with the caddies first here. Despite the fact that the finished film doesn't take much from the original script, it feels like Danny gets kind of a full character arc here. I mean, he's the kid in the house, adding a copious amount of sugar to his Cheerios to kind of hitting it big at the end there and winning the game. So what do you guys think?
I noticed that with the Cheerios too. That was the fun little stuff. And the idea of that crowded house was because the Murray brothers, there's 9 Murray siblings that all grew up in a house like this. And so that was kind of the experience they were going for. So the fact that it was loud and chaotic was deliberate. So for what that's worth,
I still don't think it works, but yeah, I hear you. But
so it was deliberate. So it's just a choice that didn't work, at least. And again, a little bit of an artifact from the original script of fun stuff like the soup mentioned, with the dad, pointing out the idea of like, oh, you're not even putting all your joint in there. Oh yeah, I had like 5 Cokes with lunch. They bring up the lumber yard here. That'll be a little bit of a runner in kind of a very 80s moment where the dad's eating. He's like, who is this? I don't even know it's his nephew. Like that's a very 80s movie thing, right? Where somebody has like a nephew or a cousin or something they don't even recognize. That just feels like a very like dead on 80s movie trope. Soup, anything else you want to add to the meeting of Danny's family and the whole intro?
Yeah, nothing that I can say that isn't going to be a repeater, So yeah, I mean, like I said, man, I think it just kind of set the vibe of that, and yeah, it could have been done a little bit better, but I think the chaotic element needed to be there. It could have been tweaked a little bit to make it a little bit more understandable, but it doesn't really matter because that scene, I mean, after that it is, you had the country club now, So what did that go on for, like 5 minutes, if that, not even probably.
it's hard it's hard to follow for somebody who hasn't watched the movie before, or it's been 30 plus years or 40 years since they watched it or whatever. It's like it's hard to follow that opening scene. I'm just really surprised that like this is like you've got the audience fully their full attention and you lead with that's
yeah.
totally inconsequential to the entire movie. It's just kind of like I really question that opening. Honestly, after that, I was like, oh, dude, this isn't what I remembered at all. It gets better, but it's like it almost lost me in that 5 minutes. It's like this is horrible. What am I even watching? Like this is just it just didn't work for me. That's my opinion, but I hated the opening scene. That.
You're not wrong. It's really just there to develop the whole idea of Danny, not wanting to know, doesn't know what he wants to do with his life. But they could have done it in a simpler fashion. Like if you're right, if you lose that scene, you don't meet any of the characters again. There's probably a way you could have done that with a line or two of dialogue or somehow on the intro in another way. So you're not wrong. I think if they had to go back and do it again, that might be one they tighten up. How about just all of the kissing ass that Danny does? Does any of that really work for you? I kind of like how it smells stiffs him on the tip.
The caddy tournament, for instance. Might look pretty good on a young fella's application.
Well, I'm sure going to try, sir.
This is for you. You tell Ty Webb I'm gunning for him. If he's as good as he says he is, he's got to play me to prove it.
Okay, I will, sir.
Good boy.
Thank you.
Good boy.
Thank you.
Like after he even like sticks up for him with the golf club and everything like that and takes the blame, he gives him 50 cents. And that was cool. And then just the when Danny takes a shot at him, like,
I plan to go to law school after I graduated, but looks like my folks won't have enough money to put me through college.
Well, the world needs ditch diggers, too.
Nice try.
I think the caddy tournament is probably another thing that would have had a much bigger part in the original script. And Michael O'Keefe, the guy who plays Danny Noonan, is probably the only one who really has a good golf swing. But I feel bad for the dude because after this movie, he didn't play golf for like 30 years. He was like, because every time I would play, everyone wants to watch Danny Noonan play golf. So it kind of ruined golf for him. And he was like a scratch golfer when this was filmed. So I feel a bit bad for him. And I also feel a bit bad for the caddies. Dude, all they get for winning, you get the trophy, obviously, which probably just your name is on the trophy. You don't get to keep it. And then you get a sleeve of golf balls for first place. Second place gets a pair of socks. Third place gets a bag of golf tees. That's kind of soft, I feel. Like, you can't even get a dozen balls.
You know, it is. And, you know, Mills, it's interesting because I really enjoyed the caddy stuff, and the tournament was awesome, and just seeing them kind of interact with each other at work. And you get a young, I'm pretty sure that's Clark Griswold's boss in Christmas
It
Vacation.
definitely is.
Which is, he's awesome in this. I love that.
Right, surely.
But one of the things that I kind of puzzled here a little bit is, if this was a movie about a coming of age in the caddies, there's really only two caddies that you're really shown or you develop anything with, and that's Tony and Danny. Shouldn't there have been more of them here?
They're not named anymore. They lost all their scenes. And in fact, the actor who played Tony kind of was like famously kind of stiffed because he was supposed to be, maybe the second or third lead. And then all of a sudden, because no one knew. Like, they only had Bill Murray for 6 days. No one knew what you were going to get from Rodney Dangerfield. These dudes came on and were absolutely just slaying. What are you going to do? You know what I mean? You feel bad for those guys. And most of them have been, pretty cool about it after the fact, because they got to be, part of a huge movie. When he wins the caddy tournament, that sets up the whole plot where he sleeps with Maggie. And it took me forever to realize, oh, this is the chick from Animal House, the mayor's underage daughter. I didn't pick up on that forever because of the Irish accent. And in my head, I always assumed that it's because like she was the groundskeeper's daughter or something like that, or related to the groundskeeper somehow. But that wasn't even it. I guess in the original script, she was supposed to be an exchange student. And then there's even another level from that where the country club where the Murray brothers worked at, they had an employment service that for some reason only hired Irish exchange students, like females, to work. So this was like a very specific callback. So they left it in there to remain true to the story. So that's why Maggie just has a crazy heavy Irish accent, which does take you out of it a little bit when there's no explanation, I feel.
No explanation.
Are we
And kind of
talking
this.
Irish or Scottish here? I thought Scottish was the groundskeeper and
The groundskeeper is Scottish, but in my youth, I didn't know any better.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and this seemed kind of weird. I'm like, I couldn't tell if like Maggie, like it just seemed like weird that they're just going to hook up all of a sudden, because it didn't seem like that. Seemed like he kind of had eyes for the other one. It just, again, it doesn't really. It's hard to kind of follow a little bit with what this is. Like, it just kind of seemed like, they're young kids, let's make them bang, and now he's banging everybody. It just a little bit weird for me. It just didn't really settle.
Yeah,
Like,
because they probably lost about 80% of her scenes, would be my guess, something like that. So most of that just got left for, so Rodney Dangerfield could do his thing and everything. It's fine. It's just, it is what it is. Like you said, it doesn't land, kind of as hard as it could have. And I remember watching this, being really young at the first time and not even quite understanding, like asking an adult, like, why is she so, what is she late for? What do you know when you're like 10 or 12 or something? You know what I mean? You don't know that for nothing. Like, oh, like, I don't
Right.
know.
It just, and then she's just miraculously not. It just, like, a lot of the stuff with her scene seemed so weird. Like, it just kind of seemed like forced in there. But and again, I kind of felt like I kind of watched this thinking like, am I missing something? Like, am I missing parts of this story that I don't know? Like, did I miss something?
You don't. There's just the main thing is there isn't a story. They're just trying to hang a bunch of random scenes together. And that's the main fallback that takes it from being maybe it's a classic sports comedy, but it's not probably a classic movie because of those drawbacks. The technical stuff and the fact that it isn't like a super cohesive story. But not only does Danny sleep with Maggie, he's doing real good. He gets to sleep with Lacey Underall, and that's one of the many puns we get here. Lacey Underall, get it? Lacey Underalls, and obviously a very attractive girl. And R.I.P. Cindy Morgan. I feel very bad that she's no longer with us, but she's always been very cool about her part she played in this and everything. And this is just she plays it so well, right? Like that 80s chick archetype, whatever you want to call it. Just the first scene you get of her and all the caddies just like stop. And they like everyone literally, and same thing that happens in the pool. Literally, when she walks in, everybody just stops and looks at her. And that's not necessarily the easiest thing to play. And I think she just absolutely nails it. And shout out to boy Tony, one of his lines that didn't get cut the first time he sees her. The very Italian with the oh Madonna with meatballs. Even the joint at the dinner where Danny's looking at her and he just keeps putting butter on her plate over and over and
That's
over.
a huge
And
amount of butter.
and Maggie's just looking at him like, dude, seriously, I'm right here. I got you this gig. I gave you the banquet waiter gig. Like, what are you doing here? And I always enjoyed their flirting at the yacht club when Danny dresses up in the outfit and everything like that. And they're smoking the reefer. Although I would literally bet you money that Spalding got sold some fake shit. I bet you that's actually not even an authentic reefer there. And the one thing I never get when they're hanging out there and Dr. Beeper walks up to him and he goes to check his beeper. And we can even talk about Dr. Beeper having a beeper, but and then he like gets electrocuted. Did you think he was faking that for a joke or that was real? I still can't figure that out. I'm
I
thinking
had no
actually
idea
it
what
was
I was
real.
watching. I was like, what is this? It's so weird. Like what just happened? Like what I don't understand this.
I couldn't tell if that was like the world's biggest dad joke or he got electrocuted because he just went swimming with like a 1979 beeper.
It might have been like the world's first dad joke, dude. Like the OG.
I don't know if the world's first dad joke, but one of the first most popularized dad joke. And again, I don't want to get too deep into that at that point. But then the whole bit of them flirting, dude. When Lacey's reading his palm, and she does the whole saliva line thing, Danny gives this look, and it's like I've never seen it better illustrated anywhere. And it's just like I should totally not hook up with this person because of my current circumstances, but I am totally going to. And honestly, do you really blame me? And that was the best rendition of that look I've ever seen, basically. I feel even Maggie would have been like, yeah, dude, I get it. Like, that's all pass. For like
I
1980.
couldn't tell. Is he dating Maggie or is that just a
Well, you don't really know, really. I think it was more they hooked up. Again, in the film, it's all over the place, so you can't really tell. But I do know that Jamie G is either going to make a lot of money one way or the other, be it in the market or on a game show.
100%? Did you have any idea that a Babe Ruth would look like that in a pool? Because, dude, it looked so real, like actual turd floating out there. I know this is so juvenile and stupid, but I literally laughed so hard at this. It was really funny. And then you get the big payoff with Bill Murray's character kind of biting it at the end. I thought this was really funny. Just this was one of the better shots to me. Is when the camera pulls off, you're watching it kind of float, and then the camera pulls off, and you just kind of see it floating, and everyone's kind of getting out of the pool. I know the director struggled here a little bit. I thought that was a really good shot.
Jaws music playing in the background, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was very cool, man. That's actually one of the things when I went into the rewatch here, I remembered that particular, that was one of the ones that, I knew from this flick. It was one that I hung on to from shit back in the day, even, when I was young and stuff. But yeah, Baby Ruth in a pool, dude. Baby Ruth in a pool.
Well, yeah, Jamie G. I think you said you remembered the gopher. I remember the pool scene from my youth. That was the one.
Obviously you remember
that probably stuck with me the most, just kind of, randomly. And I like the idea that they even just do the random synchronized swimming thing. And how Ramos was like, yeah, there's no reason for that. We just thought it would be funny. It is because it just comes out of nowhere.
It either works or it doesn't. In this case, it does. Other films have done this before too. The random I think it even appeared in like maybe one of the Austin Powers or something like that. They did one of those.
Yeah, there has been another. Yeah, you are right. I can vaguely remember like another synchronized swimming joint. And I just like the whole idea that the caddies are so put off. They're only allowed in the pool from 1 to 1:15. Like, yeah, this is all you get there. But in that 15 minutes, they managed to literally just wreck the whole thing. And everything about it works so great, especially I already mentioned like Lacey walking in. But that whole bit where she goes up and does the dive and everything, apparently the actress had to, take out her contact to do the dive, and she was basically blind. that was a hell of a dive, all things considered, right? I thought that was just absolutely great. You know, Maggie shooting the eyes of death when Danny's checking her out is great. The fact that Tony just moves in on her so quick, you know, everything about that is just absolutely fantastic. You got the perfect music going for it. So, dude, talking about Judge Smails being the worst, Mrs. Smails is right up there, right? When she comes in and just like, oh my God, oh no. Just the whole bit of Carl, you know, dude, if you had to wear all that gear and you pick something up on the pool, once you pick it up, all right, you pick it up in your gloved hand, so be it. Is the first thing you do really going to be lift up your mask and like put it close to your face?
It's definitely not something that looks like a fucking someone took an aqua dump, dude. You know.
Well, dude, it's so funny because you get the judge in the background. I want this bleached and cleaned. I mean, he's going through all the protocol he wants. It's
Carl's
just a
like,
funny moment.
don't, you know, no need. Oh, dude, when he bites it and then Mrs. Smails faints, that is like classic. That's, you know, just absolutely perfect. There were just a couple other nice moments with the caddy. I always love Tony caddying for the old people. That is
Same.
so good. Just hey,
What
I'm
was the
hot
name?
today. They can barely hit the ball. He just wants to kill himself. Like he comes back in and people are like, "Yo, dude, what happened? They die on you?"
You know what I love? I love those old people. I forgot what their name is. Something hard to pronounce or whatever. But either way, both of them are just. You know what? They're having a good time, man. They don't give a fuck, dude. I love old people like that. You know, they're not being assholes. They're not complaining about anything. They're just out there to have a good time. Are they annoying and hard to deal with? You know, but yeah, probably. But you know what?
If they're well intentioned, intention matters. They're not trying to. They probably gave him a good tip, right? I bet you they tipped well.
Probably tipped well. They have again, like old people like that. That you know, I mean, I don't know. To me, I have a soft spot for that kind of thing. You know, I like the vibe there with them. You know, whatever.
Yeah, and all the stuff in the Caddyshack is cool. I love the intro to Lou where he's trying to get some bets out on the Mets and Yankees. And Jamie G, let me ask you this: Lou says, "Give me the Yankees in three, and I'll take." He says, "Give me the Mets in three, and I'll take the Yankees even." That doesn't really sound like a real bet, does it? Like the Mets in three, it's not the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know what he was getting at there.
Not a good gambler, then apparently. Maybe that's what they were trying to set up, just that he's not a good gambler, which is funny because eventually, when there's almost a fight there, Lou kind of pushes the dude into the sign because he wants him to read the no fighting. At first, he's like, no bare feet, but right
Right.
under no fighting is no gambling. And I don't think Lou is really following the no gambling rule.
Nope. No, he's basically trying to get action the entire time.
Oh, and yeah, I'd love and shout out Brian Doyle Murphy. He absolutely kills it here. Yeah, and you know, just the good stuff. And I feel bad for caddies. They kind of have been replaced by carts. It's to no fault of their own, but you know, I wish there were still caddies, but people are lazy, dude. They like to not have to walk.
I would walk if I had somebody carrying all my stuff, but even then, I'd still kind of prefer the cart. I think that's the fun part.
You can get a four caddy, which is basically someone who rides with you and does the functions of a caddy, but without, you know, the walking. At some places, I do feel bad. The caddies are a lost art. They're still there at Pinehurst. You know, that's part of their whole deal. But you know, it's a good gig if you can get it. I'll tell you that. It's literally handed down these days, I believe.
Next, let's tie ourselves up with Ty and his ties. It's interesting that Ty has most of his scenes before the final act with either just Danny or Lacey. Other than the stuff from the final match, what did you dudes enjoy about Ty Webb?
It's just classic Chevy Chase, dude. You know, I like that he never can get the names right, but he does the same thing as Clark Griswold and shit. Like, you know, gets the names wrong. It's almost the same character, kind of, very similar. But even he has a fun way of breaking shit down, even though it might not make any sense. And then he does the whole thing with beat the ball. But he just has this so out there way of saying things that just nobody could do it but Chevy Chase, really. You know, so. I just enjoy his character. It's just one of those. Like he's a likable dude. And I know in real life, from what I heard, he's kind of an asshole, but as far as what he portrays in films, especially this one, man, that's a dude like that's a guy I would want to hang out with, man. You know,
That's why I call it peak Chevy Chase here because this is who he is, the best like deadpan improv reply guy. That's who he always was. He's got some charm. He can't do too much emotionally. It's kind of the same character. There's not much difference here between Ty Webb and Fletch, but
right?
I don't really mind that because I think that's what he did really well. And he should have just maybe leaned into that a little bit more. Here, it's a perfect version of it because he plays slightly against the Clark Griswold type by doing, you know, a little bit of a new age guy. who does a couple drugs and has a little fun and plays a little bit fast and loose, right?
Yeah, actually, matter of fact, one of the first lines between him and the first scene between him and Danny, like I think either the second or third line is, "You take drugs," and he's like, "Every day."
So what's the problem?
You're right. So what's the problem?
Yeah, just the fun little runners like that. Everything more or less is kind of fun, and I feel most of the Chevy Chase golf scenes here, or at least from a sports movie standpoint, fairly, I don't know if iconic, but memorable. You know, him blindfolding himself, hitting the ball, blindfolding
The
Danny.
ball.
He tries to hit it. He be the ball, no, 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 on the green, no, 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 no. Like golfers still do that to that day.
That's definitely what you think of when you think Ty Webb from Caddyshack or Caddyshack 2, because he was in Caddyshack 2 as well. But it definitely he does the be the ball thing, and it's part of his character, a big part of his character, especially in the second one. But
I
none of
mean,
them.
he says a whole thing when he's hitting the ball blindfold. He's like, "There's a force in the universe that makes things happen, and all you have to do is get in touch with it." So he's talking about the Schwartz, right?
Pretty much, I think so.
I think
Yeah.
he's talking about the Schwartz. I think this is this early setup for Spaceballs in just little things like Jamie G. You might have missed this one, again with the poor audio if you don't have subtitles on. But Ty tells the whole story about night putting with the dean's daughter. And the obvious implication, you think it's going to be him? And he's like, "No, it was my roommate, Mark Comstein." And if you look at it, it's spelled exactly how you think it is. Even when Danny's like talking to him about like getting the job at the lumber yard or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, did you take the Cooter preference test?" I am pretty sure in real life it's the Cooter preference test, like Kuder. But if you look in the subtitles, it's definitely spelled Cooter the way you think it is.
Yeah, little subtle stuff there that I think is you got to kind of search it out. I think it's easy to miss. But one thing that I really appreciated about Ty Webb was his hat and his outfits, the white pants with the glove hanging out the back pocket, the shirt with the collar all the way up, the hat's A plus, man. He definitely looks good.
He's the cool guy golfer, and then there's
Yeah.
of course there's Rodney Dangerfield's character who's just too out there kind of, but well, we haven't even talked about him yet. We'll get to
I found it interesting with Ty. Again, I kind of didn't know. You're kind of looking for the story. Is he a regular? Does he own the place? Does he just play every day? Like, what's kind of the story here with
he
him?
owns part
Is
of
he
it. I
really
know that.
good that now he doesn't play anymore in public? Like, what's kind of. I kind of searched for, like, all right, well, who is he and what's his background? You don't really get it. You don't really know unless I missed it.
Well, if you watch, and again, this might be a Caddyshack 2 spoiler, but if you go that far into it, he owns a bunch of shit, but he does own, I think, most of the stock or most of the Bushwood estate as well.
What they imply in the flick basically towards the end when he has a conversation with Smales is that Smales and his father co-founded the club together. And they make the idea that he's kind of independently wealthy. Like when Lacey's like, "Oh, here's an uncashed check for $70,000 or whatever." And this is 1980. That's like having like 250K laying around or something like that. So yeah, that's kind of wild, but he does nail all of the little moments there that Jamie, you've already alluded, the one about measuring yourself by height, the moment where, he's kind of talking about golf and Smells like, "I'm no slouch myself." And Ty's just like, "Don't sell yourself short, Judge. You're a tremendous slouch." That is just like absolutely fantastic. And shout out Lacey. We don't give her maybe a ton of call outs here. Like when I remember being a youth, when she says like, "Oh, I enjoy skinny skiing," I thought like, "Oh, what does she mean? Like water skiing with skinny skis?" Like, "Oh no, she likes the ski naked." Now I figured that out. But also bullfights on acid. That's a flex gun. I don't know about that.
That's yeah. That's definitely a flex, dude.
Yeah, and when they hook up, there's a ton of funny stuff there. That's again Chevy Chase mostly improving it. Like him trying to pour the two Perrier bottles together to make a new one, and then try to put the cap on and then act like it was cool when it comes off. There's no carbonation. Was pretty great. When she comes in, I don't even know what would go in this. He offers her a tuna colada. If you just look around his place, it is just absolutely weird. All of the just shit that's in there, and there's just leftover pizzas, and you get the idea like he either just eats at the club or gets pizza delivered, and that's pretty much all he does.
Yeah, I feel like somebody like that just doesn't give a fuck about anything. He doesn't need to ever worry about anything. Like, so he can just kind of function on a whim with whatever he does all day, every day, and just kind of go with it because it's completely fucking like no worries whatsoever.
The kind of man where when someone tells him, "My uncle says you have a screw loose," he says, "Your uncle molests collies." And the idea of Judge Smails molesting a collie is actually pretty funny. In Chevy Chase doing a snort of salt is also pretty funny. When you think he's going to do the tequila shot, he snorts salt, he sucks on the lime, and then just throws the shot over his shoulder. That was a total improv. And if you actually watch Cindy Morgan, like actually looks into the like for the camera and be like, "Oh shit, we're actually filming this." Like they didn't even know that she didn't know they were going there, and that was just a pretty fantastic overall.
Do you think it was really salt there, Mills, or do you think it
Probably
was
not
something
salt.
else?
It was probably something a little.
I would hope not. I am pretty sure snorting the Stalski, not snorting. You shouldn't snort anything with salt. I'm assuming is especially pretty bad.
Probably
That's
better with the real thing than salt. Salt.
Yeah, you might actually. Yeah, no, we're not encouraging drug use, but you might actually. From a yeah, I'm pretty sure. From yeah, you don't do not. No fun dip, no Smarties, no salt. None of it up your nose.
Right, definitely not habanero powder, man. I worked with a guy a bunch of years ago who decided it would be a fun challenge to sniff a rail of freaking habanero powder. Pretty sure. Well, he definitely had to leave. He definitely like he. I don't know if he had. I don't know if it was a hospital situation or not, but it was bad. Like he definitely had to leave. It was bad. Like he was all fucked up. His face was all fucked up and everything. So yeah, don't do that.
And the other big tie scene we should probably talk about is this famous scene with Bill Murray as Carl when he kind of plays through into Carl's shack there. And this scene basically happened because the studio was like, wait a minute, we have Bill Murray, we have Chevy Chase, and they're in 0 scenes together. And if you know some of the history of SNL at this point, they had almost gotten in a fist fight. It was kind of a whole thing. It wound up being very professional, but this whole thing was put together on the fly. Like dudes went out to lunch, like Bill Murray, Hal Ramis, Douglas Scotty, Chevy Chase. They went out to lunch. They ate lunch. They wrote the scene while they were building Carl's little apartment or shack or whatever. Basically, they went in, knocked it out one day. Bada bing, bada boom. Kind of crazy, right? I mean, you get these two guys, and I thought they played it really cool, and it was very memorable too. I mean, everyone kind of gets their moments. JBG, you've been a little up and down on this one. How'd you like this scene?
Again, it was kind of just like I'm trying to follow what's happening. He's playing at night. I didn't really know he kind of stumbles in here. I thought it was funny. Bill Murray, I couldn't get over this weird thing he does with his lip when he's talking. It's like a stupid cool. Like it's a weird thing that he's doing. So I'm like focusing on that. But it was a weird scene. I thought it was funny. Obviously, it's great to have both of them on camera at the same time. But it was just again, it's just not real easy to follow what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's if someone could actually invent a grass that you could use on a golf course and then get high on after, that would probably be pretty valuable. I will say that.
Surprised nobody's done that yet.
I'm sure they have tried. How about you, Soup? How'd you like this? This is kind of, the two biggest stars in the movie at the time, two of the bigger comedy guys in the world, at least in the United States at this point.
Yeah, to me, this is one of the. It's up there with one of the better scenes of the flick. Honestly, man, not for as far as like storyline purposes and whatnot, but just as far as like again, it's Chevy Chase and Bill Murray together, and I mean, it's hilarious. It's cool for what it was, and it fit, and it was fine. I mean, I definitely like that, man. It's one of the more memorable ones from the movie.
Any part about it stick out? My favorite, just part of it was Carl trying to clean his place up with a leaf blower.
Yeah.
It just,
You know what? But that doesn't really surprise me, and I love that. Like the entire, I mean, obviously it's just a character or whatever, but he's always wearing whatever these guys are wearing. Even Ty Webb too, man. They're always sweaty. They're always sweaty, especially Carl. He's got the wife beater he's sweaty on, but even you'll notice it with Ty Webb too, man. Like he's always sweaty. So obviously they're filming this shit outside. And it was in the elements and whatnot, unless they put it there for a reason, but I don't think they did in this case,
No, yeah, I don't think that was a prop sweat for what
Not
it's
prop
worth.
sweat.
Definitely not. And there are a couple of famous quotes here. I especially love, just talking about a Carl kind of cleaning his place with a leaf blower. And Ty asked him, like, "This your place, Carl?" And he's like, "Yeah, what do you think?" And Ty's like, it's really awful. I like when you can kind of deadpan that, like brutal honesty. And then the other bit where Carl's trying to, show that he's aspiring to more. He's like, "Hey, I'm not an idiot. Like, people think all I do is cut lawns for a living, but that's not it." And Ty's like, "Oh, people don't say that about you as far as you know." I use that line. People don't say that about you as far as you know. Like, just slip that into somebody sometime when they're complaining about something and see how they react. That
I
is
like
just
that.
a
I'm going to use that.
fantastic bit.
But It's not this.
Oh, people don't say that about you, as far as you know.
I'm definitely going to use that one, man.
That's just a very good line.
Believe it or not, Bill Murray initially filmed all of his scenes in 6 days. One, two, three, four, five, six. In those 6 days, he managed to knock out several classic scenes. We've already talked about his scene with Ty, talked about the pool scene. How about his interactions with the head greenskeeper?
I thought this was freaking hilarious, dude. I mean, you got it just like, it's not my fault. Nobody can understand what you're saying.
Dude, the whole like, check me if I'm wrong, but if I kill all the golfers, you're gonna lock me up. And then the idea when he tells him that it's the golfers, he's like, "Oh, we can do that. We don't even have to have a reason." That is just
Well,
so
let's do the
good.
Gophers instead.
Yeah, killing the golfers was dude, this was one of the, to me, this was a laugh out loud moment. I thought this was really good writing and it was done really well.
In one of the better visual gags, when you first meet Carl, you see him and he looks like he's kind of jacking it, and it's just
Oh
like
yeah.
he's cleaning the balls, watching the ladies who are very old by design. Like this is just Carl, and then he gets another later scene of he's doing that when he's actually cutting a cup, like putting a new hole in the green, moving the pin location. He's kind of working it in there, and he's like, the golfer's leaving. He's like, "Wait up, girls! I got a salami I gotta hide still."
Yeah,
Like, he's kind of dirty, dude. Carl's but good-hearted. I feel like the rare like guy who's kind of dirty, but he feels like his heart's in the right place, except when it comes to kill environment.
He's just doing a weird mouth lisp thing that's like,
Totally intentional. The whole, I
oh
guess it
yeah.
was based on a character he did a little bit at Second City with that whole aspect of it, and so kind of in 6 days he had to throw it together, and most of it was improv. Believe it or not, in the initial script, the idea was that Carl would be a silent character, so none of this is written for Murray. He's literally doing almost all of it off the top of the dome,
Wow.
which is pretty as impressive.
Was there a reason why they only had him for 6 days?
Yeah, because he was, I think, filming Meatballs and then SNL, or a movie in SNL, one way or the other, and then they got him back for like a pickup or two. I just still love all the visual gags with the gopher. The idea of Carl, like, he knows what he's doing when he's hauling the big ass hose out between his legs and then, putting it in the ground. And actually, there's companies that do that now to try to flush gophers out. They flush them with water. That's a great visual, though, right? When he finally gets there and it just spouts out everywhere. Dude, wouldn't everyone want gophers then? That's free irrigation. You know how much it costs a golf course to put an irrigation system in? Dude, just get like 3 of these gophers. They're worth millions. Don't kill them. What are you doing?
I don't know. The judge would disagree, man. Do you have any idea what a gopher does to a golf course? I mean,
It's really moles. Moles are actually the bad ones for golf courses. Moles are kind of what get you, but it just sets up Smells being a dick, which is also pretty awesome. Did you like the whole varmint thing? It feels a little bit Ernest, maybe. Was Ernest the varmint guy? But this was before Ernest, so I guess it works. It's always just pretty funny. I mean, I love when Carl stalks him at night and he goes out and he just has like the random 2 branches taped to him, and he goes out with 2 6-packs of bud.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna get the go for now." That's where he winds up almost hitting Ty when he's at the dinner party there for the 4th of July or whatever it is, when he's trying to hit the gopher. I just love that that's it. Oh, nothing to see here, man. Just this 1 or 2 sticks with like 3 leaves on them.
I thought this was great, dude. The way he just sets him down. It's kind of like he's already been drinking. One gets loose. He plops behind the tree. That was fun.
And the bit when he's in his little cabin there and he's making all the plastic explosive animals and he's talking to him, and then you cut to the gopher watching through the window. That, I don't know, it shouldn't work, but it just does for me. Just an idea, and I don't know how they humanize the gopher like that, but it feels like he shows emotion a little bit. Maybe it's because they're using dolphin sounds for the gopher, but I don't know. Like in that moment when he's kind of looking, he's like, "Oh no!" And then when he even sees the plastic explosive animals later, he's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" He's like, "Oh wait, this might not be a real animal."
Yeah, I like the idea of how they humanized the gopher, dude. And it kind of added that element to the movie that I think, I don't want to say it needed, but it was definitely a cool addition to it, And now here we are, how many years later, that one of the first things people think of when they think Caddyshack is that fucking gopher, And again, I'm going to bring up Caddyshack too. That gopher is also, well, not that, but there's a gopher in Caddyshack too, and it's even more humanized in Caddyshack too because there's more scenes, with the gopher doing more,
The golfer was willing to work for cheaper than Ronnie Dangerfield, Chevy Chase, or Bill Murray. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, I just think good stuff overall. And then one of the most major scenes, Hoop, you alluded to a little bit before, the Dalai Lama scene from Bill Murray. This is something that was scripted before, but what was not scripted was him putting that pitchfork up to the other actor's neck. And the other actor was like, yo, dude, can you go a little easy with that? Because that was actually a real pitchfork.
You could
And
actually see
apparently,
it making contact there, man.
yeah, he went through it. Peter Burkrot. So shout out Peter Burkrot. Like he was genuinely scared. It just the idea that they didn't even have this down really. They had the idea that the guy was going to give the speech. It wasn't originally Bill Murray playing it after they kind of, went from him being a silent character. All right, you're caddying for the llama. What else do we do? And someone was like, all right, what if the llama stiffs you? You don't get anything. And then Bill Murray came up with the whole idea of that, like, what he got was on his deathbed, he will achieve total consciousness.
And I love
You
that
like that? How about at your funeral? I don't want it on my deathbed, but at your funeral, what if, like, you couldn't say anything, but you knew who showed up?
well, I love that he's like, well, so at least I got that going for me. And that's
Which is nice.
which
That's
is
one of the classic lines of the movie. So I got that going for me, which is nice. I use
Which
that.
is nice.
I use that legitimately once a week at minimum, but just a cool concept. And this was the scene that basically kind of convinced Harold Ramis when someone else tried to do it that they needed Bill Murray, and he just absolutely nailed it. Just kind of the dumb stuff like Gunga Lunga, Gunga Lunga. Just doing that kind of like Bill Murray thing that only he can do. And then the Cinderella story scene was legitimately just Bill Murray. They had a thing in the script where it was like Carl hits chrysanthemums with his little stick there or whatever, and that was it. That was the scene. And Harold Ramis gave them the direction. Like, you ever like picture yourself like playing sports and like you're the announcer in your head? And Bill Murray just was like, all right, just give me a few rows of flowers, and just literally just did it. And if you look at it, there's really not a lot of cuts. He pretty much just absolutely nails it. His golf clubs are not really right. It's not really consistent. The clubs that he is hitting are not what they should be, but it's very cool to hear Carl win the Masters. And then that leads right into the scene with him with the Bishop. So that's definitely one of his probably strongest stretches of the movie, just because he gets those two scenes right on top of each other, both of which I think are pretty classic. And everyone knows, like, it's in the hole. Like, if you're playing golf, like you say, like, it's in the hole. It's even been used in golf video games.
I absolutely love this. I did kind of want him to hit some of the other flowers too, so it wasn't just the whites, but it worked so well. And yeah, man, it was just like as a kid, you're replaying like winning the championship as you're in the driveway shooting hoops, or out at the fields, hitting tennis
And the
balls,
crowd
whatever
goes
it was.
wild. Ah,
Yeah,
ah.
just
Like
very
that kind
cool
of like,
stuff.
yeah, we even used to do it amongst ourselves when we play horse or something, even, or
Oh yeah.
who I wanted. Like, so that feels really real, right? And I think that's part of the reason it connects so well. And my guess is if he had to do more takes, he would have had to keep hitting more flowers, but he literally just nailed it so quickly. You heard other actors talk about just watching this, and they're just like, God damn, Bill Murray. Like, he was like a force of nature at that time. And I definitely remember the scene with him golfing with the Bishop sticking out in my youth, both for the Bishop getting hit by lightning when he yells rat farts when he misses the putt, and for the idea if you're playing golf and you're on a roll, you do not want to come off the course. It's not going to be the same when you stop. You just want to keep going. But at a certain point, there's so much water on the ground. Once the cup fills, you can't really putt anymore. And I thought they did a decent job of actually showing that, just how crazy it gets. But I definitely remember that one from my youth. And I don't break out the rat farts a lot, but that's a good one. Soup, do you remember this scene?
I would probably say something a little bit more vulgar than that, but I like it. It's whatever pops in there. You never know what you're going to say in a moment like that. I mean, because you're in a I mean, it could be horsecock or anything, but something like that will pop in. So I like the usage there, and I think it was very fitting. And yeah, it's something I would do. I don't know that it would be that exact term, but it would be something. So I think everybody has that crazy saying that just comes out of nowhere. Like, why did I even say that? But it was just extreme in the moment. It just popped in there. Like
Yeah, rat farts is pretty unique, right? Like, I've never really heard anyone else drop a rat fart, so that's kind of why I think it sticks out a little bit, just because.
Yeah. Again, it's something like that you would not, nobody would. Why would
Yeah, you couldn't really even come up with it now. You'd have to be in that situation where
Yeah,
the
it's
bishop's
total
about to
improv,
literally
right.
curse God. Like, he literally told God, like, dude, God wouldn't dare interrupt the best round of golf I've ever had. and then he misses the putt. Like you wonder if it was a hubris.
I will say, being critical of how it looks, how it sounds, I thought this was really cool. Some of these scenes, it's like, dude, that looked like hurricane force rain. Like that was really, really strong rain. I know this was filmed, I believe, in Southern Florida. I think Miami maybe. So I know this was filmed in Florida. So it's like that might have been legitimate hardcore rain if they just filmed it on set like that. I thought that looked really cool as they're out there, and it's coming down, it's windy, and they're still out there just to kind of highlight the point of like you don't want to get off the course when you're swinging them real good.
No, you definitely don't. There's always people like that, the crazy storm people, and I definitely don't mind as long as I can keep my grips dry. If you can't keep your grips dry, then you're in trouble. But I hate playing in rain gear. So then once you're wet, you're wet. So it works a
Phrasing.
little bit better now with some of the technology we have as far as the material. Back then, their best hope was polyester, but their buttons came down to their belly buttons. So it was like the inverse of your grandmother's bush.
Carl versus Gopher is one of the great rivalries at Bushwood, but we've also got Judge Smales versus his nemesis, Al Cervic. Let's be honest here, Al is a bit over the top sometimes, but Smalls is literally just terrible. I mean, the worst.
Yeah, he's a dick.
When you first meet him, right, he just comes in, you get the idea, like in the locker room, he is just an absolute dick to everybody. And we've already mentioned kind of Dr. Beeper here with his beeper. I just do love the idea, like, oh, you're gonna interrupt my golf, like, oh, someone has a thing. Just snake a tube down her nose. I'll be there in 4 or 5 hours. There's so many good things in the initial meeting. It smells like if you look in the locker room, there's dudes playing Go Fish for money. And I just love that the head locker room attendant is named Porterhouse. And Bales tells him, like, yo, you got to get this car towed. And there was a dude getting a rub down. And as soon as Smales tells what the car is, the dude runs out. So obviously, kind of that was his car. That's some of the background gags that are kind of reminiscent of Airplane a little bit. Some of the really like broader comedy that if you're not paying attention, you probably don't pick up on the first time around. And then kind of the runner of Smales telling Spalding what to do. This is one I do in real life all the time where it's like you're going to do X and like it. First, it's like you're going to play golf and you're going to like it. And then later on, it's like, oh, you'll get nothing and like it. I definitely use it. You'll get nothing and like it all the time. I absolutely love that. Soup, any thoughts on the introduction to Smales here other than like they do a good job of portraying him as kind of being the worst?
No, I think it needed that for the for the longevity of the story and where it's going to go and everything else, man. And other than what you already said, it's pretty much. I mean, it was spot on, dude. I don't know what they could have done better as far as introducing a character like that, man.
Jamie G, you like the introduction to Smales kind of as a straight man here?
Yeah, I did, and the scene with the locker room scene. This is when it started to get like comforting being in this like boys club, the country club here of Bushwood. This is when the movie started to kind of get comforting for me, and then in comes him, and he's just this giant jerk. And I thought they did a good job with it. This one worked.
Well, it's always going to be a villain or, so to speak, some kind of bad guy in any movie, or any story. There's going to be that
He's
balance.
basically like Dean Werner from Animal House, I think. Kind of, he's just kind of the generic bad guy, but he does a great job of it here.
Right.
Like it's a thankless job for Ted Knight, right? He is the straight man here. He is the butt of every joke, and he takes it. He has great intensity. Again, I think like low key, kind of like the real MVP almost. Even though everyone else is funnier, like he sets them up for it. Like he's there helping them out, and so I Smells the character terrible, but Ted Knight I think absolutely slays there.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And the movie needed him. It was already kind of spiraling. He kind of got it back grounded and
Yeah,
focused,
he's the
and
anchor. Yeah,
he's kind of the anchor to it.
yeah, gives
Yeah.
it kind of that gravitas. Because then the yin to the yang here, we meet Al Cervic, played by Rodney Dangerfield, and famously he rolls in. I mean, you can't go bigger. He's got a red Rolls Royce with a loud horn that literally plays "We're in the Money," and I just love the idea. This is a guy we've all probably met him before. That's just like here, just tips. Here's money. Here's money. Even to people you don't normally tip to. He's just that guy. But Rodney Dangerfield just absolutely plays it so well. You get the little intro with the valet there, and then he walks into the pro shop, and that is just a famous scene, an iconic scene, basically. Like, he's just like, give me this, 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 and then he drops the whole like, oh yeah, oh god, this hat, this is so bad. Yeah, if you buy this hat, they must give you a free bowl of soup, huh? And then he looks
He's
at
wearing
Smales, who's wearing the hat, and he's like, oh, it looks good on you though. And the way he turns away, like that is like one of the like that I swear it's almost the origin story of a meme right there. It's just that so good. And for the record, I will say that back then, naked lady tees were real, and they did usually come packed with exploding balls.
Excellent. Well, one thing I did want to say about that scene in the pro shop or whatever when he comes in buying all the shit, or even his whole character, like with the excessive tipping and everything else, very very similar to his character in Back to School. Like when he goes in and buys all the books, and here I have a pen, just giving shit away, or buying books for everybody and shit, like.
To the point he gives away all his pens. He doesn't even have a pen. Then he's going to ask someone for a
Then he's
pen.
like, oh, I gave away all my pens.
Yeah, I mean, that's Dangerfield playing himself. And they
Right.
famously said he really wasn't acting. He was just doing, his bits and improving. And his main complaint was that people didn't laugh. But honestly, the hardest part here is probably trying not to laugh. And I will say, if you really play golf, there are people who really do use orange balls. They're a thing. And they're a really particular group. Like if you randomly get paired up with someone and they're using an orange ball, they are either going to be awesome to play with or they're going to be the worst, and there's no middle ground. If
Why
you're
orange?
using an orange ball, you are not like just a run-of-the-mill golfer. Like
All right,
you
now
are
can you use orange in a professional setting, like say you're
yeah
in a competition, like
yeah I believe Peter Melotti you generally uses orange on the PGA Tour. Like it does happen a little bit.
Why
There's
orange?
nothing against it.
Why orange? So you can see it better.
Yeah, I don't know, to be different, dude, to be cool.
Why not neon pink or some shit?
You gotta get a sponsor for that, probably.
Interesting. All right. How about tie dye? I'd go with a tie dye ball.
You should, I think a little business for balls is spinning out here, and
Well, you got ball business, dude.
he's got ball
Yeah,
business.
yeah. I mean, obviously, so do I. One of my balls is bigger than the Epcot Center, but that's really a discussion for me and my doctor, not for this here. And I love everything with kind of the initial get together, just of Smales and Ale on the golf course when they start playing behind each other, and everything kind of meshes into each other there. Culminating in obviously him yelling him at the end when Smales throws his club. But dude, L's golf bag, that is just an initial great bag because if you have ever really known golfers, especially if you don't ever carry your clubs, you can put a crazy amount of shit in your golf bag to the point like people are like, what are there bricks in here? And the fact that his bag winds up having like a keg of beer, a beer tap, a cup distributor, a television, and a radio and a phone. Think about this. This is filmed 1979-80. Dude has a phone and a television in his golf bag. How big of a flex is that?
Yeah, it's incredible. I loved it. And dude, we kind of grassed over it, but dude, the scene when he first meets Smales in the hat, I thought it was hilarious because I actually in my mind I'm like, dude, that's not a bad hat. And I love that he's got it on as he just comes in. He's so disruptive. He's so anti the quiet hoity-toity establishment of a country club. He's the exact opposite, and it's so funny to see that clash because Smales is just that. And the fact that he's wearing the hat was just classic Dangerfield here.
Well, see, I like the character Al. I mean, obviously Dangerfield's awesome and anything, but I like that character because he's out there and he's having fun. Doesn't matter. Yeah, he might have a ton of money, throw money around everywhere, but you know what the thing is? He's having fun. The other guy, Smales, he has a ton of money too, but he doesn't have fun. He's not out there having fun. What's he even doing this for? Why is he going to be an asshole to everybody? Like the guy having fun is definitely a cooler guy.
Yeah, that's even illustrated on the golf course.
Good point.
L doesn't even care. He's playing golf. Like he'll play for money, but he plays it straight up. Maybe he's got a little help with gadgets made by Einstein or whatever. But Smales cheats, right? And that even drives Danny a little bit crazy. Like you're supposed to be a judge, right? You're this paragon of justice and virtue and whatever, and you cheat on golf, dude. When you cheat at golf, you're just cheating yourself. There's handicap in golf. The people who sandbag and stuff, it's not worth it, man. Just to play the game straight up. It's one of the few sports that is built so that players of different skill levels can compete against each other because of handicap. So if you're going to cheat and be a dick, it's not even worth it. Like it's one of the few sports where they do try to level the playing field so everyone can compete against each other and have a good time. So don't be Judge Smales. or the bishop apparently. Like when he puts his joint in, it's like, "I'll put me down for a 5." You see the caddy be like, "Yo, like dude, out of a 9." So it's not like Smales is the only one cheating. Did any of y'all have anything in particular about Al's bag that you liked? I just loved the idea that the club shot out of it. I thought that was really
Oh,
cool. The joint he was using was like a Casio calculator, apparently. It obviously didn't do it, but just the gradual reveal of all the gadgets in the bag, to me, especially when I was young, it wasn't quite a hoverboard, but that was incredibly cool.
it was super cool. I'll say one thing too. I thought it starting off with the caddy not being able to carry it, but trying as hard as they could to carry it, I thought was really fitting. And then you start to see all the robust stuff happening with this bag throughout the course of the movie, which made that scene with the caddy really struggling to kind of get it up over his arm or whatever really worth it.
Yeah, agreed. That's about all I got on that one, man. Yeah, definitely, dude. And this is another thing with more similarities between this one and the follow-up sequel is there's a character that's similar to this, a very off the wall, doesn't belong on a golf course, kind of is traditional, and it's Jackie Mason plays that character in Caddyshack too. Same thing with the golf club. I think he's got all these weird digital effects and everything on his. I mean, whatever. I'm not going to spoil that movie or get too deep into that one, but I feel like it's a similarities between the two, but cool. Dangerfield's character was definitely cooler, and his bag was cooler too. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned the two, and one of the moments that's fairly memorable here is Smales getting hit in the groin with a ball, and
Oh,
played by Rodney Dangerfield's like, "Yo, I should have yelled too." Apparently, that actually came from a real moment. Hal Ramis said he only ever played golf twice in his life before filming Caddyshack. In one of those times, he hit someone in the groin with a ball.
dude, that's hilarious. I remember on the like I don't even know if I remember that scene from watching it before, but on the rewatch, during the past week or whatever, that actually stuck out as one of the funnier scenes for me because it was just like you hear him yell four or whatever, and somebody's gonna get hit with a ball, like somebody's gonna get, but all of a sudden it's just a close up and dude gets hit right in the dick. Like man,
It's the Simpsons, right? Man gets hit in the groin with football. And it doesn't matter that everything else is just like, dude, did you not see? He just got hit in the groin with a ball.
have you ever seen a guy get hit in the dick with a golf ball though? I mean, I
I've got
haven't.
hit in the rib cage with a club someone threw out of a
I think
sand
somebody gets hit
trap.
in the
That hurt.
back or the head even, which sucks, but yeah, right in the dick, dude. I mean, that's a money shot,
Well,
man.
actually, you're probably hoping it's more in the Frank than in the beans. Honestly, if you had to really pick,
Yeah, 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 definitely Frank over Beans if you have to take
yeah,
between the two. But
yeah. Not to go full something about Mary, but yeah, you don't want to. And you know what? We
unless you
don't
got the
even
Beans,
want.
you got the Frank somehow. Yeah.
You do not want to do that. And one of my favorite scenes, and this was mostly improv by Dangerfield, so it made a lot of the other actors uncomfortable, is the big dinner scene. One of the things I don't really play up here is this is supposed to be happening during 4th of July weekend, which is why it's all kind of festive with the flags and everything like that. But dude, Rodney Dangerfield at this, just like him telling Smells' wife, "Oh, you must have been something like before electricity." There's just moments of this just slay me. I cannot express how funny they are.
You must have been something before electricity. Yeah, it's hilarious.
Again, these little things like that all throughout this movie. This movie is littered with them, dude. I mean, it's the little dialogues and whatnot that a lot of people go. That's why it's so rewatchable. That's why it's so good on the rewatch time and time again because things like that you pick up, or even if you get it the one time and then oh yeah, it comes back and you're like, dude, that's fucking hilarious. It's just these weird underlying like I don't know. I mean, it's hard. I don't even know the right word to describe this, but things like that are awesome about this movie.
I think this is the sweet spot of where some of the scripted stuff met with the improv, where they had some of this in play, like, oh, like Rodney's character is going to complain about the food. So, like, he gives the whole, like, they probably didn't script the steak still has marks on it where the jockey hit it, which just the chef, like, being like, I'll show him dog food with the cleaver. That was probably scripted in that the chef would have a reaction. In one thing that probably wasn't scripted was the gopher. Like, we've seen him dance to the fast stuff, but just seeing the gopher kind of slow dance randomly, that was just a beautiful cutaway. That didn't, necessarily add anything, but that gave, I think, weight to the idea that the gopher was kind of the thing that tied the whole story together. And then even Ty, when he thinks he's making it with Lacey, and he goes in for the kiss, and she just turns away, and he just kind of like gets the side of the head. And I've been there before. I'm not gonna lie, like that happens. It can be a little awkward, but he appeared to power through it because they do get back together. And I have worked as a banquet waiter before. I may or may not have finished a drink, but at least I never finished one with a cigarette butt in it. And again, at least
Yeah.
this was a joke that had a follow through, right? Like Spaulding was pissed. He drank all the shit. He puked in Dr. Beeper's car, and then Dr. Beeper sits in it. So that's why I think this was one of the better sequences of the flick.
Yeah. Well,
And it's a good splash sound when he sits down. That was I
Back
enjoyed
in
that.
the, obviously don't drink and drive, but back in the day when he like gets his wife in the car, and they she's got a drink, she's finished it, and he just kind of like, yeah, things were a little bit different back in the day. So yeah, I do want to say I feel bad for Spaulding, but I really don't. Like in another great Al line, just that I never saw dead people smoke before. That brings us to the boating sequence, and I still to this day again, look, my buddy. Like, hey, my buddy. Like, I always like I'll do that to my dog, literally. My buddy. Like, I do that weekly. Do you think that Al is trying to fuck with Smells? Or do you think he genuinely is like just that kind of guy who's like, oh yeah, we've met, we're cool, like we're hanging out. I'm gonna go see how my buddy's doing. I honestly can't tell and what makes it play so well. And again, I think this is probably one of the better put together sequences of the film. But Soup, any thoughts here on the boat sequence?
I think it's a bit of both. I think he is that guy, but he also is like fucking with him a little bit because he knows he can, and at this point he should.
Yeah, I mean, my dinghy, his dinghy's better than his whole boat. Jamie
Right.
G, any thoughts on the boat sequence here?
I'm the same way. I think a little column A, a little column B, but it's just so funny to watch him completely lose control here. And again, he's just this egregious, just loud, just disrespecting the elegance of it all. And it works so well. And they carry it over to here. Great outfits by everyone here on the open sea here. Really, really enjoyed this. And for what it was worth, there was some cool boat work stuff here with people trying to, they're out there jet skiing and the waves and everything. Like there was some cool stuff, kind of a little bit of an action sequence here, a little bit.
Yeah, I would say this is probably the overall best put together sequence in the whole flick, right down to the idea that when Mrs. Bales tries to kind of christen the flying wasp there, she just knocks the big part off. And then when you actually look at Al looking through the binoculars, it's Nails yelling at her to go get some wood glue. Like he's just going to glue it back on, and that sets it all off. And then what happens is, I believe for the record, a fisherman kind of casts his line. He gets hooked to the back of the boat. We never see what happens to him. Hope he was okay. And then they almost clip a plane that's taking off. That's when you get the line, I almost got ahead from Amelia Earhart. That is also a good one. And then there's kind of a wave of speedboats and jet skis. They take out a buoy, go right through a fisherman's boat. Nice dude, just having a beer, just trying to get some fish. They go right through his boat. Then they kind of take out a platform. I couldn't tell if it was a wedding, but there's definitely a party. And then finally he pulls up right next to Smells and then drops anchor right through Smells' boat and drops the famous, hey, you scratched my anchor. That's a sequence, dude.
Agreed. Holy fuck, yeah, man.
And the hey, you scratched my anchor, I'm guessing that one was probably sequence, but holy shit, does that make me laugh every time. And just the look on.
I think this whole scene was perfectly positioned in the course of the movie as well, too. Like it came at the right time.
Right, you could call it like it doesn't necessarily tie into the other scenes, but it does a lot, especially for the Al versus Spales, rivalry. Like it, and then you get the Danny stuff, and it really does a good job of kind of filling it out. And it is definitely, as much as you want to say some of the rest of the flick, it's definitely not shot the best. I think they did a good job with this one, right, Jamie G? This definitely should look better, sound better, a little bit of a cut above some of the other stuff, probably the golf course stuff, which is, I think probably some of the weaker technical stuff.
Totally agree with that. I thought this was a really well put together scene. It was funny, and it just again kind of driving this wedge of differences between Al and the judge, and it's important for the final showdown.
Yeah, and then could you get the little mini confrontation where, obviously Danny has gone off and he's hooking up with Lacey, and then Smells finds them in the house and kind of chases Danny. That's just good physical comedy, right? He knocks down all the bed stuff. He breaks all the lamps. Danny sneaks in the bathroom, and then he sees Mrs. Smells, and she's like, what is the line? Oh my God, come loof on my stretch marks. And she kind of gives Danny the look. And he just books out of there. That's great. And then the next day Danny wakes up at the Caddyshack, and the dude shows up like, Hey, tell me when Danny Noonan gets there. And Danny's like, yo, I'm Danny Noonan. And he goes into Smale's office expecting to get hit with the worst, right? Like he's there to accept his fate. It's all over. He's losing the scholarship. And Smales is just basically like, yo, don't tell anybody you bang Lacey and we're all good. And he kind of like begrudgingly accepts it. And I just thought that was well played. And I will say, like, if you had an office like Judge Smales' office at the country club, would you really ever go home? That is the coolest goddamn office I've ever seen, basically.
That's what your home looks like, I guess. But if you can top that, you know, I mean, I'd probably spend a lot of time there.
With that desk and that bar, the seating area, I'm assuming there's a private bedroom and a bathroom. I mean, that's a
I would love it. I would love to
have
be
you ever
one of
seen
the
some
beds that comes out from the wall, you know, that you can, what are those things called? Anyway.
the Murphy bed? You want a Murphy bed in there?
Yeah. I'm sure he's got a sick setup, whatever it is, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. Jamie G, any thoughts on the office of Smales here? It's pretty badass, isn't it?
I would mimic my own office of my law office after that. I mean, you take the afternoon executive nap, you've got the executive cocktail, everything's really nice. I enjoyed this a lot. Good visuals in there for sure.
Does he have a leather couch with a velvet dick hole, though? You know, if you got a leather couch with a
No,
velvet.
you need a Frank hole because the Frank Reynolds can go in there. It's a Frank hole is really what you want. That's the optimal, so you can go in and out of the leather couch. And one thing that they do is just to solidify, like, yo, if you thought Smales was bad, he literally is like, yo, I just sent kids younger than you to the gas chamber, but I felt that I owed it to him. Like, it's not like, all right, just so you're making sure, audience, this is the bad guy.
Right, yeah. That's a coffin nail right there. Absolutely. You know, just in case you didn't know, here's this too.
And then they agree to the big match. And one of the things I find interesting, Jamie G, you could probably bring this up as just something that's a little bit loosely done with the timeline. Because apparently time has passed since the bishop got struck by lightning. And now he's just getting drunk and he's like, I don't even know if I believe in God anymore. And that's where that little scene they first have before they agree to the big match. And this is where you get the little bit of dialogue between Ty and Smales, laying out the idea that Smales and Ty's father founded the club together. Doesn't really matter much. It's just setting up the stakes here. But I thought it was pretty fun, especially you get some good outfits here, everything like that. A little bit of look behind the curtain at some of these high-end country clubs. Jamie G, anything on the setup of the big match?
One thing that surprised me here was kind of again, trying to understand the character of Ty, his reluctance to golf and kind of, be involved in this kind of stuff. But yeah, I thought it was cool. It was intriguing. It makes you excited about this big matchup.
Dupe, anything on the setup?
You have all you need going into it, man. Anything else would have been a whole separate storyline or whatever. So you're kind of at the point in the movie where you're ready for this, you know.
They think it's going to be a big deal when they tell Ale, like, oh, yeah, we're not going to approve you for membership. It's like, membership? You think I'd join this crummy snobatorium? This whole place sucks. I'm just thinking about buying the joint. I always just remember that being as like a cool moment in why you identify with Ale so much, I think.
Yeah, agreed. I love that about him and about it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and he stays a character, right? Like when they're going to start the big match, like he's even sunk Ty in, like, yo, Ty, like you just had your night with Carl. You're on my team now. They drive the Rolls Royce right up to the first tee. I would not recommend doing that at the golf courses, but it's just such a great visual. Even the little gag with the steering wheel being on the wrong side. And, you get Lou doing the whole like, yo, I know this is illegal. I'm willing to help here, but you need to like agree to like, I don't want to get fired. And that sets up the whole idea that all the caddies and all the employees are going to follow along. And I just love the idea that El's even like, hey, keep it fair. Like legitimately works the refs with a couple of bucks. Just overall, I think just great setup, but it does it really quickly, really efficiently. And Jamie G, any thoughts on the setup of the big match here, as far as right before we tee off?
I thought it was hilarious. I mean, and again, you're getting Chevy Chase, just kind of that dry humor where, he slides over in the driver's seat. Just little subtle things there that I thought were pretty funny.
Pretty good setup, right? It's kind of classic sports movie. The heroes are losing. They are just absolutely getting crushed. You get a very famous line from Dangerfield as they always like, why did I double it? I tell you, I should have stayed at home and played myself. And I mean, sometimes we all feel like we should have just stayed home and played with ourselves. And then you definitely get the big trailer line, which I remember where you see the gopher steal the ball, and Nell's like, "Hey, that kangaroo just stole my ball." It's all one-liners and losing, and again, a little bit reminiscent of Airplane. Dr. Pieper wants to yo, I don't know if I want to play these stakes. And Spell's like, no, you got to stay. And he's like, yeah, I'm sure it's just a routine emergency, right? It's just always a routine emergency.
A routine emergency. Isn't it an oxymoron?
I
A
was also
routine
I
emergency.
figured you were going to say it's also a fish song, so
It might be.
it would be a good one, I think. And then they keep upping the bet. Eventually when it gets up to 40K, 40K in 1980 was basically called the equivalent of about 160K in 2023. So a couple of bucks on the line here. You get the whole bit where Ale fakes his arm injury. Danny agrees to play. And Ale's like, hey, kid, I'll make it worth your while. Jamie G, there are 80 grand a piece ultimately on the line at the end. There's going to be another doubling before the end, but we're spoiling it. Right now, there's 40K on the line. When Al tells Danny, I'll make it worth your while, Danny's going to forego a scholarship to do this. It's 8 grand a year roughly for the scholarship we've heard. How much you think Danny gets?
I bet you he's probably going to get 10 grand.
So when they double it, so he gets 20 at the end, if he gets the same percentage, or does he get more? I wonder when they double it again.
Yeah, I think that's max, dude. I think it wouldn't surprise me if he got $1,000.
Oh, dude, that would be worth then you keep the scholarship. Then scholarship would be worth more than that.
Would be.
I mean, Ale's pretty free with it, so I would be hoping that he would do a little bit better. And obviously, we get all the bits with the caddies and the other employees following along. I especially love the bit where they bet on Spalding to pick his nose and then to eat it. That again feels like a very 80s joke, but honestly, it works really well here. So I don't really care. And then you have the final setup with Danny eventually winning it when the putt drops in after an assist by Carl, let's say. And they blew the shit out of this golf course. There were people who called it in. This was a big deal. They really did blow a lot of shit up, and they managed to tie it together. And if you notice at the end, when Danny walks off, really, he's with all the caddy friends. Again, from kind of the original plot, he's oh, Tony, everybody, oh, here we are again. It's not he's hanging out with Ty and Al. But of course, you do see that Al does have some enforcement here when he's like, hey, Moose, Rocco, go collect from the judge. So, of course, he has dudes named Moose and Rocco. Jamie G, what do you think? This wrap up well enough for you?
I think so. I mean, it's kind of, with golf, there's only so much you can do to kind of have that high pressure, big moment. I think it worked just fine, and wraps up pretty well.
Soup, how about you? Do you like the wrap up here?
Yeah, I think it was a pretty good climatic ending for what you can do with it right there, man. And yeah, you can do a lot with golf, man. I mean, it's a sport. It might not be fourth and eighth with 30 seconds left and you're down by 2 and you're on the 20-yard line and you could probably make it if you can get there, but so there's intensity levels like that might not be as intense on it. But I guess any sport is that intense, really, man. So it's all in how you look at it. Either way, yes, I think it worked. It got you into it, gripped you, and you're rooting for you're there.
Good payoff, right? After all that kind of you do have a little bit of good writing here. In the caddy tournament at the very end, Smales was rooting for Danny to make it. Here it's the exact reverse where he's rooting for Danny not to make it. So even though it was a lot of big changes from the original script and everything like that, all things considered,
Did they film the entire original script and all this shit and just kind of break it down into this? So was all that
more
shit
or less, yes.
Okay, so
the original, the
plenty of-
assembly cut was 4.5 hours.
So there's a lot of stock footage there.
Yeah, there is a lot. Yeah. One of the Bill Murray Dalai Lama scene was 30 minutes originally or something.
Oh, shit.
They took their time with it. And honestly, it ended at a point where I didn't think we needed a sequel, right? Carl kind of gets out. Everyone seems happy. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. Super. Do you have anything? You seem a little bit higher on Caddyshack too. I tried to rewatch it today, and man, just Jackie Mason is just so ill suited for it. It pretty much none of it worked for me.
The Dangerfield character. I mean, it's and I don't even know. Did this movie need a sequel? No, it didn't. Do I hate Caddyshack 2? No, I like it. Do I like it as much as the first one? No. But I do appreciate both of them. I know you have a. I
I
know you have,
tried, dude. I honestly, I really was like, all right, I'm gonna approach this with an open mind.
again,
It's
there's
just
some
bad,
moments in the
and
yeah, there's some moments in the second. I mean, Randy Quaid is freaking awesome in this movie, man.
he
He's
is the best part. I will give you that. That's actually one of my favorite Randy Quaid performances
and there
because
is
it
Ty
kind of like
Webb.
tones him down to a weird animalistic level.
Yeah.
It's actually very good Randy Quaid performance. I'll give you that.
Right, right. You know, and I don't know little things about it. Like nobody calls anybody a fun saloon anymore. I think I need to bring that one back. You know, fucking fun saloon, man. Anyway, little things
That's
about
not bad. I don't know. I don't remember that one as much, but yeah, sure. That sounds fun.
somebody who
Fun
farts in the
saloon.
bathtub and bites the bubbles. He says,
Fun saloon.
"Fun saloon." Uh,
Sounds like
so anyway, this is about Caddyshack one. Little things about Caddyshack two. There, yes, Caddyshack one, or the original is a better movie, and yes, it paved the way for a lot of movies. Not necessarily golf movies or even sports comedy movies, but comedy in general movies, or even, yeah, I think a lot of things hold Caddyshack to one of those foundational levels or building blocks as things moved forward over the course of the past 40 years or whatever it was, man. So was it groundbreaking and a pioneer of sorts? Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, before we move on, anybody have anything else they'd like to add about Caddyshack? Are you guys ready to turn the page?
one last thing I'd like to have each of us do is give our kind of dream foursome for a round of golf. You can name three individual people, pre-existing group, fictional, dead, alive, whatever you want. For instance, you could say like, "Oh, I want to play golf with Charlie Mack and Dennis from Sunny." You could even cheat and be like, "Yo, Frank can drive around with us." You could do like a straight golf thing, be like, "Yo, I want to play golf with like Tiger Woods, Sean Connery, and Hunter S. Thompson." Like you can do whatever you want. And I will start out by cheating to give two things. I will say if I wanted to play in the craziest golf wagering thing ever, I'd want to play golf with Michael Jordan, Bill Mickelson, Charles Barkley. All those people have hundreds of millions of dollars and they are crazy sick gamblers. I just want to be there to see the debauchery happen. And if I was going to play for maximum fun with, real life people with a little bit of a crossover, I'd like to play golf with Bill Murray, Samuel L. Jackson, and Cosmo Kramer. I think that would be super fun. Jamie G, give me your ideal foursome, man. Who would you just like to have golf with? Dead, alive, fictional, real? Who would just be fun to play golf with besides some members of Fish?
Well, no, they're gonna. I mean, it's. I've got three right here. Obviously, Josh Allen. Got to play golf with him. Got to play golf with Trey, and then you add in Burt Crusher, who loves jam bands, and I think this could be really fun. And of course, Jamie G. Esquire the fifth, the Llama Lawyer to boot as your fourth man.
Nice, nice. Soup, who would be in your foursome, baby?
All right. Well, being that I can't, I'm not on a level where I take golf that seriously, so I would definitely not want to play with any professional athletes of any sport, because they're going to be competitive no matter what. And not that I don't want to be competitive, but I want to be loose and have fun with the thing. So having fun, I'm thinking comedians here. Like first thing I have two lineups. My first lineup, Adam Sandler, because he was Happy Gilmore. Plus, he's got to be hilarious and fun to hang out with on a golf course. So go Sandler, Andrew Dice Clay, and Pauly Shore. I think that would be a fun day on the golf course with those three and me. My other one, if it were a different kind of vibe, which would also be very fun, would be myself, Snoop Dogg, Tommy Chong, and Michael Winslow. That would
Ooh,
probably be a really good time too.
I would love to hear like what would
I
come
want
out
the
of
sound
that for
effects. Michael Winslow sound effects all day, dude. Anything you got, bring it. You know,
that would be
all of it.
that's super fun. If I had to do fake golfers, give me El Cervic from Caddyshack, Chubbs Peterson from Happy Gilmore, and Tin Cup. As long as we get Cheech the caddy, as long as Cheech is caddy in there, we do that. If we just want to crush beers, dude, I'd like to play golf with Wade Boggs, John Daly, and Pondy, Bill Ponderosa from It's Always Sunny. And if it's not golf, it's HBO. I'd like to play golf with Tony Soprano, Larry David, and Ari Gold.
Ooh,
Nice, man. Well, we can't forget our man K-Log. So let's go back to the house for some Soup on soundtracks. Soup, we always talk about the banger soundtracks from the 90s, but the Caddyshack soundtrack was a pretty big deal in the 80s, as in 1980. Am I right?
Soundtrack to Caddyshack was pretty sick. 1980s, you expect one or two songs in there that are going to be like, noteworthy, and everything else that sprinkled in will probably like kind of carry it, but with that 1980 vibe or whatever. Obviously, the big banger here was Kenny Loggins' joint. I'm all right. You all right? I'm all right. I'm all right. Anyway, good tune, man. I think it reached pretty high levels on the billboards and whatnot outside of the film or whatever. But people know the song, man. It was a good one, dude. It's up there with a couple other great ones, and some of them are his as well, like from that era of movies and shit. So also there was a Big Banger Journey song in there, man. That whole scene was pretty good, and that went on to be a very successful song by Journey, who is a very successful band. Something that I thought was kind of cool about this movie after looking into the soundtrack situation and whatnot. Um, Apparently originally he wanted to use Pink Floyd to write music for the film. Now, I love Pink Floyd, but there's really nothing funny. This is a comedy movie. There's really nothing funny about Pink Floyd or their music. It's usually very serious music or whatever. I think it maybe could have worked like as background shit here and there, but I don't know that it would fit this film. Other films, yes, of course. I mean, it's fucking Pink Floyd. I don't know why he was going for Pink Floyd for this particular movie, but had he got
Probably
him,
more the coming of age, right? Like something like Dark Side of the Moon about moving through a cycle or something. Like, yeah,
yeah,
probably really early.
maybe, and I see how maybe it could have worked, but again, I don't see it in a
He was
slapstick.
probably just really high. He was like, "Yo, dude, I'd like to get Pink Floyd. That would be
I've been
super
listening to a
awesome."
lot of Pink Floyd lately, man. Like, so, but
Nothing
anyway,
wrong with that.
I thought that was a cool little whatnot about it, man. And I mean, yeah, I mean, whatever. I mean, it's Caddyshack. It fits the scheme of the
K-Log carries it. The score is pretty great, and Johnny Mandel did the score here. And the one thing you probably recognize him from is "Suicide is Painless," which is a
the
movie.
mash.
Think that's
Yeah,
actually the Mash theme. Yeah, like so,
not the monster
kind of a
mash.
well-known dude, like the movie and the show. So he did the Mash theme. So kind of a cool way to tie it in. And I think we'll all kind of remember Journey a little bit differently because of The Sopranos, but still good here. As we record this, we're still probably about 2 years away from getting new episodes of The Boys. That makes me sad. So we're going to do a crossover with Compound B and bring in Fashioned by Frenchie. Jamie G, I'd like you to give us your top 5 outfits from Caddyshack because there is some great fashion in this movie, is there not?
Some good gear.
Fantastic fashion in this movie. It's one of the best things this movie did was the fashion. Let's start off. These are in order. Coming in at number 5 in Jamie G. Esquire the Fifth's top 5 is Danny as he's trying to impress Smales at the yacht club. He's got the full-on skipper hat, hand in the pocket, the ascot. Dude is rocking it and rocking it well. Really, really, really love this outfit. Great stuff there. At number 4, look, man, Tiger Woods wears red on Sundays, but when Al has a big match, he breaks out the red plaid pants. Loved him on game day here in the final showdown with the red plaid pants, blue shirt, and the classic white hat. This is great. I wish I had a pair of these pants just so I could wear them out on the golf course and maybe other places. At number 3, I got to give it up for Tony. I know he didn't win the caddy tournament, but he's the best dressed player, and he can immediately go from the course to the club, baby. He should have gotten, I don't even, John Travolta, who? He should have been Saturday Night Fever dressed like this. Absolutely love him. He's going out to the club, and I don't mean country club. At number 2, you got to hand it to Al here. The dude gets dressed up just to go to the club and tell them how much he hates it. He'll never join. He's just thinking about buying the joint. I love this, man. The yellow pants, the yellow like polka dot almost designed sports coat, blazer, the pink shirt, the green ascot here. It's great. And just the classic, the way these pants are like silk or something, because every time, he can't stand still. He's saying stuff and you can see his knees bending and moving. It's just great stuff here. And the way the pants just kind of free flow, I think they're silk. Either that or very expensive linen. Number 1, I also have to give it to Rodney Dangerfield. Look, Al is always the life of the party, and he dresses the part. This particular outfit, it's like he saw what Joker was wearing and was like, I like that, but can we add more plaid? The dude's rocking purple, and I mean purple pants, yellow shirt, white tie, and then the plaid almost looks like terrible Christmas paper wrapping, holiday paper wrapping sports coat here. It is an unbelievable outfit.
I've owned ties that are that plaid pattern that his jacket is. And the fact that no one wears a belt always weirds me out a little bit here. Like, why does no one wear belts? Did they not wear belts in the early 80s? I forget.
He might have had suspenders on under that thing. I mean, that could have been.
Fair enough, but neckerchief, dude. Bring back the neckerchief. That's all I'm saying.
I like that. I like the style. Definitely, the Al's wardrobe is freaking sick. But the guys that tuck in the shirts, like that can't be comfortable. I'm not a shirt tuck in guy. Like it's got to be uncomfortable. Like why would you do that to yourself? Why would you roll around tucking in a shirt all day? You know, I mean,
You need to buy shirts that are long enough so that you can properly tuck them when you sit up and down, but it is a whole thing. It is a pain in
I
the
feel
ass
like
if
I'd
you
be
don't
having to
buy.
pump it in. Fix
Yeah,
it
if you
yourself,
buy
know?
like off the rack, like, for most people, it won't work right. Especially when you golf and you swing, it'll pull your shirt out, and then it'll just feel
Yeah,
kind of
everything
awkward.
does.
So
Reach
I
up to the
eventually
top shelf, dude. You're
prefer
probably-
untucked, but I try to tuck it in around the clubhouse.
How you tucking
You
in,
just try to
dude?
tuck it back. Like Rufus in Dogma.
As you know, as the lawyer of the show here and as an official professional in the workforce, I have to tuck in all the time. I tuck in and I tuck, and there's no problem with it. I'm never uncomfortable tucked.
Well, they do now actually make untucked shirts and everything, so it is a valid conversation point. But you can go either way. You get good shirts fitted the way you like them. Do what you like. Be happy.
That's the
Yeah,
thing.
and-
I don't know why anybody would be happy doing that. You know, do you do that when you're lounging at the house? You're doing it why? To look good in a professional setting? That's stupid. You know,
Some people like it, dude.
if you like it, cool.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't see
Some
anybody
people-
lounging on their. I don't see anybody lounging around their day off with the tuck though. Actually, people do, which is weird. I see people on
Yeah,
the day.
people do, dude. That's it. To each their own, man. That's
Yeah,
it.
you know, whatever.
If you tuck, you tuck. If you don't, that's fine. And in honor of Elaine Bennis, creator of the second greatest system of all time, we always determine if our featured review is in fact sponge-worthy. Mills, give us an update on our sponge supply and tell us if you think Caddyshack is in fact sponge-worthy.
Jamie G, as of now, after the wheel of sponges, I have 3.5 sponges. You have 5.75 sponges, and the soup juicer has 1.25 sponges. Obviously, this is sponge worthy for me. I can spare a sponge. I can spare a square. How about yourself, Jamie G? Is this sponge worthy?
Oh God, it is, but it's not a slam dunk sponge. But it is in fact sponge worthy. But it wasn't the slam dunk sponge.
So
Fair
what do you
enough.
say, man?
Soup, is this sponge worthy for you?
Well, I think it was pretty undisclosed there. Is it sponge worthy or not, dude?
He said yes, dude.
All right. All right. You know what? And I know I'm thin on sponges, but this is a legendary, iconic movie, man. It's definitely sponge worthy, dude.
All right, dude. So, yeah, like it on Wayne and Garth. Well, the opposite of Wayne and Garth, maybe. We're not worthy. We are worthy. Whatever. Caddyshack, worthy. Let's move on.
Well, I hope you've got your space wallets handy because it's time to give a grade to Caddyshack. We grade everything we watch on a scale of 0 to 100 space bucks. Soup, how many space bucks are you giving to Caddyshack?
Well, this is a tough call, man. I like to really kind of stay, especially in a sponge worthy joint. I like to stick with, a good hefty amount of space bucks. And since we have an unlimited supply of space bucks, I end up being frivolous with these things and just kind of throwing them out. I'm like Dangerfield in the fucking pro shop, but you know what? I'm gonna do that anyway again. I'm giving it 92 space bucks, man.
92 space bucks. Jamie G, how about yourself?
It came out in 1980. I am giving it 80 space bucks.
Fair enough. And probably not surprising, I will be the highest on this one. Give me 95 space bucks. It's, again, not a perfect movie, but one of my favorite sports comedies, if not my favorite sports comedy. I love that genre. It's good stuff. I find something new I like every time. To each their own, but I am going to stand on my soapbox for the Caddyshack, which I should, because it's my job.
One thing I really did like about this movie is how rewatchable it is, though, man. I mean, that's something
Yes.
that definitely makes it hold up the way it did.
My man.
Who would cross the bridge of death must answer me these questions 3.
3 questions. What if you get a question wrong? Then you are cast into the gorge of eternal peril.
Ask me the questions. I am not afraid.
And we shall watch and pray.
Well, before we get into what we're watching next, it's time for the questions 3.
All right, here's the deal. This is the 3 questions. The questions 3. Here's how it works. This week, I have written the questions for Jamie G and the Soup Deucer. Our contestants are awarded 1 point for each correct answer. Whoever gets the most points wins. In the event of a tie, we have tiebreaker questions. The winner gets a sponge, as do I for writing the questions. And gentlemen, if you wish to cross the bridge of death, you must answer me these questions 3. And we're going to keep it Caddyshack focused. Jamie G, you are up first. In Caddyshack, Lacey reads Danny's palm and tells him he'll get rich in one of 2 ways. Name one of them.
I remember the scene where she's touching the palm or whatever.
I made sure I mentioned all of these in the show. I even mentioned it. Playing golf. Okay. Jamie G, question 2. In Caddyshack, the Caddy Master Lou places bets on 2 baseball teams. Name one of them.
The Yankees.
The Yankees. Question 3. In Caddyshack, real estate developer Al Cervic calls out the 2 biggest wastes of prime real estate. Name one of them.
Oh man, I'm gonna say I don't know, hospitals.
Hospitals.
All
right. Soup, you are up next. In Caddyshack, what type of golf tees does Al Cervic buy in the pro shop at Bushwood Country Club?
Gold.
Gold.
Probably wrong. But
Question 2. In Caddyshack, groundskeeper Carl Spackler tells a group of female golfers to wait up because he has to hide something. What is he hiding?
Salami.
Salami. Question 3. In Caddyshack, what did the Dalai Lama give Carl Spackler?
I want to say advice, but I guess that could be taken in a different way. Total consciousness on his deathbed or something.
Total consciousness on his deathbed. All right, let's break it down. Question 1, Jamie G, I asked you. In Caddyshack, when Lacey reads Danny's palm and tells him he'll get rich in 1 of 2 ways, I want you to name one. You said playing golf. And the correct answer was in the market or on a game show. Soup, I asked you, in Caddyshack, what type of golf tees does Al Cervic buy in the pro shop at Bushwood Country Club? You said gold tees. The correct answer was naked lady tees.
Ah!
How do you miss naked lady tees? Jamie G, question 2, in Caddyshack, the Caddy Master Lou places bets on 2 baseball teams. Name one of them. You said the Yankees. That is correct. So we're at 1-1. And Soup, question 2 to you was in Caddyshack. Groundskeeper Carl Spackler tells a group of female golfers they have to wait up because he has to hide something. What is it? You said a salami. It is a salami. Jamie G, we're even up here, 1 point apiece. Question 3 to you. In Caddyshack, real estate developer Al Cervic calls out the 2 biggest wastes of prime real estate. I asked you to name one of them. You said hospitals. The answer was cemeteries and country clubs. Soup, your third question was in Caddyshack. What did the Dalai Lama give Carl Spackler? You said total consciousness on your deathbed, and you were correct. So by a total of 2-1, Soup Deucer wins it. Takes down the sponge. He is once again sponge positive. It was a good game, enjoyed by all. Soup, anything to say before we move on? Just celebrating your victory. Happy to be swarthing the sponges.
Dude, absolutely, man. I rarely win these things, and tonight I won the wheel of sponges and this joint here, man. So I know I'm not sponge heavy, but I feel like I've got sponges to play with. You know, no, I'm not even that far yet, but at least I'm comfortably sitting on a cloud. No, not even a cloud of sponges. I'm comfortably sitting on a sponge. How about that?
I just think sponge heavy might be our first actual like t-shirt promotion option. I kind of like that we're sponge heavy. I don't know how it would actually work, but I think it sounds cool.
I'm on the right track though. If I can keep winning, then I will be sponge heavy. So now I got the motivation, dude. You know, just be the
Yeah, we're
sponge.
sponge heavy now.
No,
I
no, no,
like
no,
that. I
no,
like
no,
that.
I'm gonna be the sponge, dude.
No. All right. All right.
No.
We're trying to get to a movie.
You better get going. You don't want to miss 1 second of that movie. Is it that good? It's the best goddamn movie I've ever seen in my life. Dude hangs dumb. I missed that.
The final order of business here is to figure out what we're going to watch for our next episode. We're going to do what we're calling a ranked choice repitch. We each contributed 3 of our previous pitches, which gives us a total of 9 movies. We then rank those movies from 1 to 9, and Mills, the mathematician, is about to reveal the results.
All right. Well, we put in 9 movies, and pretty much 4 of them didn't make the cut. How High, Anchorman, Commando, Heathers. I know Heather hurts for Jamie G. I know Commando hurts for me. And then we kind of had a little bit of a mid-tier here with From Dusk Till Dawn and Back to the Future. And then we had a little bit of even another teardrop here with Romancing the Stone. We were really trying to feel it. Jamie G, you had a 3. Soup, you had a 4. I had a 4. We were feeling it. And then things happened. We had a tie at number 1. So we had to go into the full definition of ranked choice voting here. There was a tie between Kingpin and The Last Boy Scout. As far as Kingpin, Jamie G, you had it at 5. Soup, you had it at 1. I had it at 1. And as far as The Last Boy Scout, Jamie G, you had it at 2. Soup, you had it at 3. I had it at 2. So, due to the rules of the vote, we are going with The Last Boy Scout because we all agreed it was the only movie we had in our top 3. So, very cool. We're going to do The Last Boy Scout and we're going to watch the thing real quick.
This ain't no game, Flash.
Joe Hallenbeck's a private detective who's run out of luck.
If you touch me again, I'll kill you.
2 for 2.
Told you.
Jimmy Dix
I like Prince.
is an ex-quarterback who was thrown out of football.
Another tragic tale of wasted youth.
You're nobody.
Shh. Don't tell anyone.
They were trying to clean up their acts
You vacuum, I'll dust.
when they got dragged into the dirty world of sports corruption.
So you're gonna bribe some senators to legalize again?
Legalize sports gambling. Now,
Son, we're going to a ball game.
they've got one shot
What am I gonna do? Point at the bad guys and shoot!
to get the goods on the bad guys.
Just once, I would like to hear you scream. Play some rap music. Not about these, man. Take your best shot.
If they don't kill each other first.
That was a bomb? Either that or a hell of a factory recall.
Bruce Willis, Damon Wayans, The Last Boy Scout.
Danger's my middle name.
Mine's Cornelius. Tell anybody I kill you.
Dude, if you didn't tell me different, I would say that was AI generated for how many like 90s, milestones it hits, but I don't really care because it's The Last Boy Scout.
This is a perfect time to do this movie. I love it. Let's roll with it, man. I'm looking forward to this one.
It's going to be great.
A lot of people miss this one, I think. It doesn't get a lot of love or anything like that, but it's a
I've
super
always liked
solid
this movie,
flick.
so, yeah. It is. Who was the director? Was it Tony Scott?
Tony Scott, yeah, Tony Scott, dude. Shane Black script. It's got all the 90s stuff we love. I mean, that is one of the most 90s trailers you'll ever see.
It is. It is.
And I don't mean that in a bad way.
It definitely gives some things away, but not too much, dude. And it's hilarious and action packed. Like, this is a great fucking movie, dude.
Yeah, it's funny. It's got a bunch of comedy moments, and it's not all you would look at it and be like, oh, okay, they got the funny guy and Damon Wayans to come and do it. And this was when he was doing Mo Money. He was starting to really show his chops as an
Bruce
actor.
Willis is actually funnier than
Bruce
Damon
Willis.
Wayans.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, Bruce Willis is actually the one that brings a lot of the humor here. And it's
Bruce
super
Willis's
funny,
daughter is great in this one too. There's a bunch of good supporting characters. Very well
Halle
done.
Berry at this motherfucker.
Yeah, early Halle Berry. Bruce McGill from the Animal House. He's great. Joseph Pure ties in a little bit with Caddyshack. So good stuff.
Good call. I'm down. I'm totally
Yeah, last voice out. We're doing it, dude. I'm excited.
Little sad about romancing the gemstones there, but that's okay.
We can still we'll find time. Crossovers will happen, but I think everyone will like Last Boy Scout. I really think that's a good one.
It's gonna be a great one. Thank you guys for checking out Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. We appreciate breaking down stuff we love with each one of you. Give us your thoughts on Caddyshack, and also, have you seen Last Boy Scout? If you haven't, go ahead, watch it. If you have, watch it again and get ready, because we're going to break it down right here next time on Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. Go ahead and drop a comment below, or better yet, just get in. Get all the way inside. Eagle yourself into our DMs, and we'll respond to you right there. Mills will tell you where you can find all of our social media details, because I think we do have social media. I think we're on the social medias.
We do. I mean, more specifically, it would have been better to gopher into the whatnot, but we will take it any way we can get it here on Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. Thank you very much for checking us out. Once again, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, on social media at Dudes Watch Stuff. Same place on the web, dudeswatchstuff.com. Try to keep it easy to remember, just like those flaps. Follow, like, and please subscribe. If you had fun, please hit the thumb. I'm Magnum Mills with Jamie G and the Soup Deucer doing the goddamn thing, and we're going to be here next time to do it again, and thank you for checking it out.
Thanks again for checking out Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. We're just dudes being dude, talking about the dude.
Us dudes abide, man.